A week before the college entrance exams, the class beauty claimed that drinking her family's secret herbal concoction would boost intelligence and guarantee top scores. Fearing it might jeopardize the exams, I desperately warned everyone against drinking unknown potions, earning the class beauty's lasting resentment. The entire class turned against me. Led by her, they subjected me to relentless bullying, calling me selfish for sabotaging their chances at high scores. In my distraught state, I ran into the street and was hit by a truck. Reborn, I'll keep my mouth shut this time. Let's see whether this potion sends you straight to heaven or drags you down to hell. My eyes snapped open, a sheen of sweat beading on my forehead. The classroom's chaotic noise flooded my ears like tidal waves as sunlight slanted through the windows, illuminating the open pages of 5 years of college entrance exams, 3 years of mock tests on my desk. This can't be. I stared at my completely unharmed hands, fingertips trembling slightly. Just moments ago, or perhaps in another timeline, I'd been lying in a pool of blood, feeling life slowly draining from my body. Elliot, what are you zoning out for? My desk mate Troy nudged me with his elbow. Alohan's about to start distributing the medicine. I lifted my gaze slowly, looking past rows of desks until it landed on the girl in a white sundress by the podium. Alohan, our class belle, stood cradling a thermos with that signature sweet smile of hers. The scene feels so familiar, eerily familiar, like déjà vu that makes me question reality. Classmates, this is my grandfather's secret recipe, specially brewed to boost focus and energy. Alohan's voice chimed sweetly. My dad stayed up all night preparing it, just one small cup daily, and I guarantee everyone will outperform in the college entrance exams. My fingernails dug into my palms as I clenched my fists too tightly. I'd been reborn, returned to that fateful day a week before the exams, when Alohan distributed her miracle potion. In my past life, I'd pleaded desperately for everyone not to drink that dubious concoction, even secretly dumping some of it. The result, the whole class shunned me. Alohan led the charge, branding me as selfish for sabotaging their chances at high scores. In the end, I staggered out of school in a daze, only to be hit by a truck. No good deed goes unpunished. This time, I won't make the same mistake again, I sneered inwardly, watching my classmates jostle to be first in line. Me first. Kane, the P monitor, rushed to the podium. I'm the worst at physics, could use some brain boost. Alohan smiled as she poured a small cup of brown liquid, filling the classroom with a peculiar scent of herbal medicine laced with a cloying, pungent sweetness. This smells so strong. Class monitor Naira wrinkled her nose. Bitter medicine works best, Alohan said dismissively. My grandfather brewed this with dozens of rare herbs. Of course it has a distinctive aroma. I sat quietly at my desk, watching coldly. In my past life, I'd stood up at this exact moment to warn everyone against drinking mysterious potions. Now I merely lowered my head slightly, pretending to read in silence. Elliot, won't you have some? Alohan suddenly turned to me, her eyes flashing sharply. My silent presence stood out awkwardly amidst the chattering atmosphere. The whole class turned to stare at me. I looked up with an innocent smile. My stomach's been acting up lately. The doctor said I shouldn't take herbal medicine. Chicken, bet you're just scared, Kane scoffed, downing the potion in one gulp. Whoa, bitter, but damn, instant body warmth and my mind's crystal clear now. Seriously, that fast? A few classmates edged closer, half doubting. Why would I lie? Kane thumped his chest. I could solve that killer physics problem right now. That remark acted like a shot of adrenaline, drawing more classmates toward Alohan. I watched them gulp down that mysterious liquid without batting an eye. In my past life, I considered them classmates and friends. Turned out they were nothing but ungrateful snakes, completely undeserving of sympathy. Elliot, you're really not drinking. Class rep Wendy approached with a cup. Everyone else did. It's perfectly safe. I shook my head. Can't do it. You guys go ahead. I need to pick up stomach meds from the infirmary later. Wendy pursed her lips and turned away. Whether it was my imagination or not, I noticed her walking unusually fast with an unnatural flush on her cheeks. The class belle's influence was truly unmatched. Within half an hour, all 43 classmates except me had drunk Alohan's miracle potion. The classroom buzzed with eerie excitement. Voices grew louder. Some even started dancing wildly as if they'd already been admitted to Tsinghua or Peking University. I can literally feel myself getting smarter. Troy suddenly slammed the desk and stood up. All the math formulas are coming back to me. Me too. Alohan, this medicine is absolutely miraculous. Praise erupted from all corners as Alohan stood on the podium, preening like a peacock in full display. Meanwhile, I silently watched this performance of theirs. They deserved Oscars for this act. 3 years as classmates, and only now do I discover their thespian talents. Quiet, everyone. Teacher Olivia pushed open the door, frowning at the chaotic classroom. What's going on here, miss? We drank Eloan's family brain-boosting elixir. It works wonders, a classmate reported excitedly. Miss Olivia eyed Eloan suspiciously. What medicine? Was this approved by the school? It's just a family remedy. Something we drink like water, Eloan stammered. Mumbling under her breath with obvious unease, I lowered my head to hide a smirk. With behavior like that, there's no way that medicine is clean. Only those naive fools would blindly trust her and overlook these red flags. This is outrageous, Miss Olivia said sternly. How could you take random medication before college entrance exams? What if there are side effects? Teacher, we feel absolutely amazing, Kane protested loudly. I was sleepy before, but now I just want to do the test papers. Miss Olivia scanned the classroom, confronted by the students' feverish gazes. She seemed to want to say more, but the bell rang. With a resigned wave, she said, "Class first, we'll deal with this after school. Eloan, come to my office when classes end." The lesson began, but no one was paying attention. The medicated students were clearly overstimulated. Some kept jiggling their legs, others muttered to themselves, while a few occasionally let out unsettling giggles. Soon enough, the school day came to an end. Eloan got called to the office, and the classroom kept emptying out. I packed up my bag and got ready to leave. Elliot, Wendy suddenly blocked my path. Why won't you take the medicine? Do you have any idea what you're missing out on? Studying her contorted expression, I said softly, just a sensitive stomach. You don't look well. Should we go to the infirmary? I'm fantastic. Never been better. Wendy shrieked with laughter. I feel terrifyingly strong now, like I could ace every test. Without continuing the conversation, I walked out of the classroom. Let's wait and see how this plays out. Sunlight streamed through the classroom windows onto my desk. As I stared at the dancing light patterns, my fingers tapped rhythmically against the wooden surface. 3 days had passed since my rebirth, yet each morning I still woke wondering if this was all just an elaborate dream. Elliot, let me borrow your notes. I looked up to see Wendy standing by my desk, dark circles hanging under her eyes. Ever since taking Eloan's potion, she'd been in this strange hyperactive state, reportedly sleeping only 3 or 4 hours a night yet bursting with energy. Here. I handed over the notebook without another word. Thanks. She took the notes, her nail edges showing obvious bite marks. I recited the periodic table 10 times last night. My mind feels crystal clear now. I nodded silently. The classroom hummed with the rustle of turning pages and hushed conversations, the atmosphere still charged. After all, these were students who felt supremely confident about the college entrance exams. Eloan sat in the front row, wearing a pale blue dress with her hair in a high ponytail, fresh and crisp as morning air. Who would have guessed the seemingly perfect girl was actually the ringleader of my school bullying in my past life, ultimately driving me to mental breakdown and running into traffic. Class, there are 4 days left until the college entrance exams. Teacher Olivia tapped the blackboard. Today we'll cover key problem types. Please focus. I forced myself to look away from Eloan toward the blackboard. In my past life at this point, I'd already been ostracized by the whole class, enduring daily taunts and pranks. Now I sat quietly in the corner like a ghost, completely beneath everyone's notice, and that suited me just fine. As the dismissal bell rang and Miss Olivia left the classroom, Eloan stood up clutching that familiar thermos. Who hasn't taken their medicine today? My dad brewed a fresh batch. It's even more effective now. Her voice dripped with honeyed sweetness. Several classmates immediately gathered around, including the usually cautious class monitor Naira. How have you all been feeling these days? Naira adjusted her glasses and asked hesitantly. This stuff is amazing. Kane leapt up from the back row, bounding to the podium in 3 strides. After drinking it, physics problems just click. I scored 20 points higher on yesterday's mock exam than last time. I pretended to organize my books, ears pricked to their conversation. Kane did improve his grades, but what he didn't mention was barely sleeping these past 2 nights, cramming nonstop till dawn. Well, give me another cup today, Naira said to Eloan. Eloan smiled as she poured a small cup of dark brown liquid, that peculiar medicinal aroma once again permeating the classroom. Opportunity knocks but once. Elliot, are you really sure you won't reconsider? Eloan suddenly turned to me with probing eyes. You're the only one in class who hasn't taken it. Can't help it. My ulcer's acting up. The doctor said no herbal medicine, not even spicy food for 2 weeks. I lied without blinking. Really envy you guys though. Eloan pursed her lips, looking half convinced but didn't press further. She turned to other classmates and resumed distributing her miracle cure. This time, with no interference from me, Eloan successfully doled out her potion to everyone, like Zhou beating Huangai, a willing punisher and a willing victim. I kept my mouth shut. Learning to respect others' choices was the real lesson here. On my way home, I passed a pharmacy with an ad in the window reading Gaokao Boost, Calm Nerves, Sharpen Mind. I stopped and stared at it for a moment before suddenly laughing. In my past life, I fought tooth and nail to protect those classmates, only to be repaid with betrayal and pain. This time around, I'll just stand back and watch. Let's see whether you'll soar to heaven or plunge into the abyss. Back home, my phone buzzed with a message in the class group chat. Aloan had posted a group photo captioned, "Drink the miracle potion, Gaokao victory guaranteed." Everyone in the picture was beaming, myself included, though only I knew what my smile truly meant. I studied the photo for a long time before turning off my phone. Outside, the setting sun painted the clouds in fiery hues, perfect for watching the evening glow. Tomorrow marks the final sprint before the college entrance exams. I can't wait to see what miracle drug will deliver as their ultimate result. As I closed my eyes, memories from my past life flooded in, taunts, mocking laughter, the screech of brakes. On the first day of the Gaokao, the morning sun shone exceptionally bright. Standing at the school's entrance with my exam slip in hand, I watched classmates trickle in. Most sported dark circles, their faces ghostly pale. A far cry from their hyperactive selves just 3 days prior. As I approached, I noticed Wendy's bloodshot eyes and her fingers nervously twisting the hem of her shirt, while Kane was drenched in sweat, constantly mopping his forehead with tissues. "What's wrong with you guys?" I asked pointedly, though I already had a pretty good idea. "I don't know. I've been feeling awful since last night." Wendy's voice trembled, dizzy as hell and constantly nauseous. Kane gritted his teeth. "Same here, completely drained like I've got a fever." Damn it, of all days. I glanced around and noticed many classmates showing similar symptoms. Some leaned against the wall with closed eyes, others kept drinking water, while a few girls were quietly sobbing. Aloan was the last to arrive. She wore a red dress today for good luck, but her pallid complexion made the vibrant color seem jarring. Her steps were unsteady, and she nearly stumbled when reaching the front of the line. "Aloan, are you okay?" Naira steadied her. "I'm fine, just a bit nervous." Aloan forced a smile, though I noticed her pupils were abnormally dilated and her fingers trembled slightly. The bell rang as we lined up to enter the exam hall. During security check, Kane's legs suddenly gave way and he nearly collapsed, but the proctor caught him. "Are you okay, student? Do you need to visit the infirmary?" the teacher asked with concern. "No, I'm fine," Kane nearly shouted before lowering his voice. "Just a bit of low blood sugar." The teacher gave him a skeptical look but ultimately let him pass. My seat was in the middle of the classroom, with Wendy in front of me and Aloan diagonally to my right. When the test papers were handed out, the room fell so quiet you could hear pencils scratching against paper. I glanced at the exam sheet, the essay prompt read choices. A cold smirk flashed through my mind as I began answering with deliberate calm. Within half an hour, strange things started happening. First it was Wendy, constantly shifting in her seat, left hand clamped against her temple while her right hand slowed its writing pace. Then Aloan, sitting rigidly upright just ahead to my right, though I could see her shoulders trembling faintly. Kane had it the worst. An hour into the exam, he suddenly raised his hand. "Sir, may I use the restroom?" The proctor frowned. "There's only 1 hour left. Can you hold it?" Kane's face turned from pale to ashen, beads of sweat forming on his forehead. I can't hold it anymore." The teacher had to call an external proctor to escort him. Kane staggered out, nearly knocking over 2 desks on his way. My pen glided smoothly across the exam paper, yet my heart churned with turmoil. Last lifetime, failing to make the right choice led to my tragic demise. This time, I've chosen correctly. "But what about you all?" Aloan suddenly let out a faint whimper. Clutching her head with both hands, her shoulders shook violently. The invigilator approached, murmuring questions, but she only shook her head. When the final bell rang, the classroom erupted in collective groans. Wendy's essay was only half finished, the paper bearing distinct water stains, like fallen tears. Aloan's answer sheet had entire sections left blank, unfinished. "It's over, completely over." Kane crouched in the hallway corner after leaving the exam hall, gripping his hair. I left 3 major questions blank. My mind just went completely blank. Naira didn't look any better. I completely blanked on the classical poetry fill-ins, even though I had them memorized backwards just yesterday. The classroom buzzed with students commiserating, while I remained silent. Aloan stood surrounded in the center, her face growing paler by the minute. "Aloan, you promised this medication would last through the entire college entrance exams," Wendy suddenly accused. Her voice hoarse. "Why did it fail during the very first test?" I don't know," Aloan stammered in response. Maybe it's because everyone's constitution is different. I barely slept last night." A guy cut in. "My heart was racing like crazy the whole time. Even sleeping pills didn't help." "Same here, me too." The murmurs of agreement grew louder as the classmates' gazes gradually fixed on Aloan, filled with suspicion and anger. It might not be the medicine's fault. Aloan took a step back, her lips trembling. I drank more than any of you. Why would I ever harm you? But you never mentioned any side effects. Wendy suddenly raised her voice. We drank it completely in the dark. Aloan's face turned pale instantly, standing at the edge of the crowd. I coldly observed the escalating conflict. They'd ganged up on me like this in my past life too, back then. It was because I'd tried stopping them from drinking that career-ruining potion, all right. All right, Naira stepped in to mediate. We've got math this afternoon. Everyone calm down and get some rest first. The crowd dispersed reluctantly, but I noticed the way some classmates looked at Aloan had changed. It was the look of shattered trust, the same way they'd looked at me in my past life. The afternoon math exam was even more brutal. Within half an hour, 3 students had to be escorted out due to dizziness and nausea. Wendy suddenly burst into tears during the second major question and was taken out by the proctor. Aloan lasted till the end, but her answer sheet had glaring blank sections, her hands trembling so violently she could barely hold the paper when submitting. When the second day's exams concluded, the class group chat fell into tomb-like silence, as if everyone had collectively vanished, just as I'd predicted. Everything was unfolding toward that inevitable outcome, but this was merely the beginning. The real storm would arrive when college entrance results came out. When they realized their lives had been ruined by that so-called miracle potion, all I needed to do was wait quietly. On the third day after the college entrance exams, our class group chat suddenly exploded. Lying in bed, I scrolled through the flood of notifications. The earliest was Kane's 3 a.m. message, anyone else aching all over and can't sleep. A dozen replies came pouring in almost instantly. It hurts like hell. Feels like I've been beaten up. I had a 39 degrees Celsius fever and went to the hospital. My urine turned brown, and the doctor asked what I'd eaten. I slowly scrolled through the screen, an involuntary smirk forming on my lips. These classmates who once bullied me alongside Aloan were now getting their well-deserved karma. The group chat notifications had blown past 99 plus. With the tone gradually shifting from complaints to direct accusations against Aloan, finally, someone tagged her. At Aloan, what's the deal with your medicine? My doctor said I have drug poisoning. Minutes later, Aloan replied, the medicine couldn't possibly be faulty, must be individual constitution differences. I'm suffering too, you know. Her words were like water hitting hot oil, instantly triggering an even fiercer backlash. Bullshit. The whole class got sick and you're blaming it on constitution. What's really in that medicine? Don't you owe everyone an explanation? Aloan never replied. I turned off my phone and walked to the window. The summer sun still shone brightly, but I knew in certain hospital wards, my classmates were lying in beds, paying the price for their gullibility and greed for shortcuts. The next day, I happened to pass by the downtown hospital. At the entrance of the inpatient department, I ran into Wendy's mother, her eyes swollen and red, clutching a stack of medical bills. Auntie, how's Wendy doing? I approached and asked. She looked up and barely recognized me as Wendy's classmate. The doctor said it's acute liver and kidney damage caused by medication, needs hospitalization for observation. That silly girl, how could she be so reckless? I followed Mrs. Zhang to the ward. Wendy lay on the hospital bed, her complexion sallow with an 4 drip in her hand. Seeing me, she forced a weak smile. You're lucky you didn't take those pills. I sat down on the chair by the bed and asked, I heard that medicine isn't free. Wendy's eyes flickered before she nodded. Aloan said the ingredients are extremely rare, wild ginseng, cordyceps. I gave her all my scholarship savings. Her voice trailed off into a sob. As I stared at the protruding veins on her bony wrists, I felt no pity, only the vivid memory of her snarling insults from her past life. What about the others? I asked. Kane's upstairs in the ward with abnormal liver function. Naira's symptoms are milder, but she still needs daily injections. Wendy suddenly grabbed my wrist. Elliot, do you think Aloan knew the medication was tainted? I dodged the question. What do you think? Wendy released her grip, her eyes dimming. I only found out yesterday. She outright lied to the teacher. When Ms. Olivia asked for it, Aloan claimed the supply was exhausted. As I left the hospital, a familiar figure caught my eye in the outpatient hall. Aloan, masked and wearing a baseball cap, was hurrying toward the pharmacy. She didn't notice me, but I clearly saw the lab reports and multiple boxes of liver-protectant meds in her hands. Back home, new messages popped up in the class group chat. Naira posted a lab report photo with the diagnosis section glaringly stating, suspected drug-induced liver injury, hospitalization recommended. She tagged Aloan below. Don't you owe everyone an explanation? This time, Aloan responded quickly. I drank the same amount of medicine and feel awful too. It's my grandfather's prescription formula. Never had issues before. Maybe you guys ingested something else. Her evasive reply ignited the classmates' fury. Dozens of responses flooded in instantly, some calling her heartless, others demanding refunds. and a few threatening to report her to school authorities. I turned off my phone and stepped onto the balcony, taking a deep breath. The summer night breeze carried floral scents as city lights twinkled like distant stars. Everything was unfolding even smoother than I'd imagined, each of Alohan's excuses digging her deeper into ruin, while those who'd once hurt me now endured torments worse than my past life. The only difference was, this time I just needed to watch quietly, outside the window. A bolt of lightning split the night sky as distant thunder rumbled. The wind howled through the building. A storm was brewing. When the college entrance exam results were released, our class group chat first fell into dead silence, then exploded with activity. I sat before my computer, staring at my score, 625 points. Not bad. This was enough to get into my dream university. I closed the results page and clicked on the constantly blinking group chat. My score dropped over 80 points compared to the mock exam. I only got half my usual math score. It's over. I didn't even make the cutoff for Tier 2 colleges. 3 desperate messages kept flooding the screen. I counted nearly all my classmates were complaining about abnormally low scores. Those who joined Alohan in mocking me in our past lives were now tasting the bitter fruit they'd sown. The sun scorched the earth while cicadas chirped in the distance. This sweltering weather perfectly matched the simmering rage in the air. At 3 p.m. in Alohan's neighborhood, a crowd of about 20 students and a dozen parents had gathered outside her building. Kane stood at the forefront, aggressively ringing the doorbell. I positioned myself under a tree at a safe distance, close enough to observe, but far enough to stay uninvolved. Alohan, come out, give us our money back. Pay for the medical bills, you've ruined my child's future. The shouting grew louder as several neighbors peered out from their windows. Finally, the door to Alohan's house opened, but instead of her, a middle-aged man emerged, presumably her father. Parents, students, please calm down. The man attempted to pacify the crowd, but his voice was quickly drowned out. Your daughter sold counterfeit medicine that harmed people. My son is still in the hospital. You'll face legal consequences for this. Beads of sweat formed on Alohan's father's forehead as he shouted something over his shoulder. Only then did Alohan timidly appear in the doorway, her face deathly pale with dark circles under her eyes, a far cry from the radiant class beauty she once was. I truly had no idea this would happen. Her voice trembled. I'm a victim too. Bullshit, Kane roared, raising his phone. Look everyone. This test report from a certified lab proves her so-called miracle drug contains banned substances. It damages the nervous system. The crowd erupted in gasps. I narrowed my eyes. Never expected Kane to pull this card. Guess rage really unlocks hidden potential. Alohan's father turned deathly pale in an instant. This can't be. Wait. Wendy's mother pushed forward, waving a stack of receipts. My daughter scrimped and saved to give you 800 for medicine. And what did you give her? Poison. Alohan shrank behind her father, lips trembling speechlessly. Everyone, please. Alohan's father raised his voice. There must be some misunderstanding. That prescription was bought online. The seller claimed it was pure herbal medicine. His words poured fuel on the fire. The parents erupted in chaos, some calling them frauds, others shouting to call the police, while a few hot-headed ones tried to charge forward. Bought online. Kane's voice twisted with rage. Your daughter claimed it was a family secret recipe. Charged us a fortune for this. Alohan's father wiped his sweat. The production costs are genuinely high. Scammer, a boy shouted. I looked it up. That so-called smart pills sell for pennies online. As the truth unraveled layer by layer, the crowd's fury burned hotter. I watched Alohan's ashen face, remembering how she'd led the bullying against me in our past life with that haughty smirk. Now, it was her turn to face the condemnation of the masses. Refund my money. Pay for my medical bills. Call the police on them. The angry shouts grew louder by the second. Alohan's father tried to explain, but no one would listen. Suddenly, Kane rushed forward and shoved him. Do you have any idea that damn medicine made me miss my military academy physical? That was my lifelong dream. That shove was like opening the floodgates. Several boys immediately joined in, and chaos erupted instantly. Someone grabbed at Alohan's clothes while others pointed at her father, shouting obscenities. Alohan's mother rushed out to protect her daughter, only to be shoved aside by an enraged parent. Stop, everyone stop. Alohan's father tried to restore order, but it was futile. Amid the chaos, Alohan suddenly broke free from the crowd and bolted toward the stairwell. Kane and 2 other boys instantly gave chase. Don't you run. We demand an explanation today. I stood frozen in place, listening to the frantic footsteps and shouts from upstairs. Suddenly, a piercing scream cut through the air, followed by the dull thud of something heavy tumbling down the stairs. Everyone fell silent for a moment before swarming toward the stairwell. I followed slowly and saw Alohan lying at the landing, her right leg twisted at an unnatural angle, her face covered in blood. The 3 boys who'd been chasing her stood a few steps away, their faces ghostly pale. I didn't touch her, Kane stammered. She just missed her step. Alohan's mother let out a blood-curdling scream and lunged toward her daughter. Someone shouted to call an ambulance while others began edging away. The once ferocious crowd deflated like a punctured balloon. The wail of ambulance sirens grew louder. I retreated to the crowd's periphery, watching the farce unfold with cold detachment. Alohan was still moaning as they loaded her onto the stretcher. Her father boarded the ambulance after shooting venomous glares at everyone present. "None of you are getting away with this. I'm calling the police." Nobody was intimidated. A parent sneered. "The police? Perfect. Let them investigate your counterfeit medicine scam." After the ambulance departed, the crowd gradually dispersed, though angry murmurs persisted. I overheard talk of collective complaints, lawsuits, and calculations of medical and tutoring expenses. I walked away without a flicker of emotion. In my past life, when they drove me to a mental breakdown that ended in a car crash, not a single soul called an ambulance for me. Back home, I opened my laptop to find the class group chat in complete chaos. Someone had uploaded footage of the incident, others were debating legal consequences, while a few expressed relief at not getting physically involved. Kane posted a lengthy message detailing how Alohan accidentally fell down the stairs, clearly scrambling to cover his tracks. Shutting my laptop, I stepped onto the balcony. Night had fallen, and the city lights twinkled like distant stars. This revenge unfolded more perfectly than I'd imagined. They'd turned on each other without me lifting a finger. Rumor has it Alohan broke her leg and will have facial scars. For someone as vain as her, that's probably worse than death. As for her bullying accomplices, they're now dealing with injuries, ruined college entrance exams, and potential lawsuits. The show isn't over yet, but my part in it is done. The seeds are sown, let them grow as they will. Outside the window, the summer night breeze carried a warm breath. I inhaled deeply, cherishing every moment since my rebirth. When morning light streamed through the curtains, my phone had already vibrated over a dozen times. Squinting, I swiped the screen to see 99 plus unread messages in the class group chat, topped by a news link. College entrance exam student sells smart pills causing mass poisoning, banned substances involved, case under investigation. I clicked the link and saw our familiar class photo, now pixelated, used as the featured image. The article detailed the incident, even mentioning specifics about Alohan's fall down the stairs. The comment section was in chaos. Some called Alohan heartless. Others expressed sympathy for the victimized students, while debates raged about the school's accountability. I got up and drew the curtains. Down on the street, several people with cameras were questioning the neighborhood security guard. Everything's under control. The situation is unfolding exactly as I anticipated. Reactions in the class group chat varied wildly, some worried about privacy breaches. Others fumed at the media's sensationalism. While a few debated giving a joint interview to expose the truth, Kane sent a hoarse voice message. "The police questioned me last night about Alohan's fall." I put down my phone and walked into the bathroom. The reflection in the mirror showed a calm face, completely devoid of any emotional tells. After washing up, I turned on my computer to search for related news. The incident had already topped Weibo's trending list, with the hashtag popular girl sells drugs to classmates surpassing 200 million views. Major media outlets were scrambling to report the story, some even digging up the dietary supplement company run by Alohan's father and questioning its long history of regulatory violations. An interview clip caught my attention. On screen, Wendy's mother spoke with red-rimmed eyes about how her daughter went from being a top 20 student to her current hospitalized state. "The doctors say her liver damage might be permanent." The haggard woman choked back tears. "She's only 18. Suddenly, my phone rang. It was homeroom teacher Ms. Olivia. "Elliot, are you home? The school requires all students to fill out an incident report form. I'll have someone deliver it to you." I replied with my address and went back to browsing the news. As the scandal unfolded, more disturbing details emerged. Alohan's so-called family secret recipe was actually purchased from an illegal drug forum. The powder that cost less than 10 yuan per packet was sold to classmates for 500 to 2,000 yuan each. Some students even took out loans to buy it. Now facing both debt and health crises, at noon, the doorbell rang. Peering through the peephole, I saw Naira looking haggard. She handed me a document folder after I opened the door, saying, "These are the forms the school requires. They need to be submitted by tomorrow." Taking the folder, I noticed her hands trembling slightly. "Are you okay?" I asked. Naira gave a bitter smile. "Just came back from the hospital. My liver enzyme levels are 5 times the normal range." Her voice suddenly cracked. "The doctor said it might affect my fertility." I didn't know what to say, so I stayed silent. Naira wiped her eyes. Kane might face charges for shoving Alohan's father. She turned to leave but paused. "Oh." The school revoked Alohan's graduation eligibility along with several involved students, including Kane and Wendy. Watching Naira walk away, I noticed she'd grown much thinner than I remembered. Back inside, I opened the document folder to find an incident report form requiring detailed accounts, whether we'd purchased drugs, participated in the altercation, etc. A bold warning at the bottom read, "Responses will serve as police evidence. Provide truthful statements." I completed the form slowly. I hadn't bought drugs, wasn't involved in the fight, and only knew about the incident through class group chats. That evening, I turned on the TV to find local news covering the incident. The footage showed Alohan's family business being sealed off, with law enforcement officers carrying out boxes of documents. The reporter stated the case had escalated to a criminal investigation, with potential additional suspects involved. The broadcast cut to an interview outside the hospital. Alohan sat in a wheelchair, her right leg in a cast and face bandaged, breaking down in tears before the cameras. She sobbed, "I truly didn't know the drugs were problematic. I'm a victim too." The reporter fired a pointed question, "But you sold these to classmates at inflated prices, profiting tens of thousands. How do you explain that?" Alohan's crying abruptly stopped, her eyes darting nervously. That was just covering costs." A furious roar came from off-screen. "Liar." A water bottle flew into frame, hitting Alohan on the shoulder. Chaos erupted instantly as the cameraman hastily cut the feed. I turned off the TV and walked to the window. Night fell as city lights flickered on one by one. The storm was spiraling out of control, beyond what I'd anticipated. "I wonder if any of you feel even a twinge of regret now." My phone vibrated, snapping me out of my thoughts. The class group chat had a new message, this time a shared document titled Alohan's List of Crimes. It meticulously catalogued her alleged misdeeds from freshman to senior year. Cheating on exams, spreading rumors, stealing class funds, truth mixed with fiction. The document concluded with, "This trash doesn't deserve to live." Frowning, I checked the edit history and found over a dozen contributors. The comments section descended into madness. Someone suggested confronting her at the hospital, another posted Alohan's ward number, while yet another shared images of knives. This rhetoric has crossed the line from anger into dangerous territory. I turned off my phone and walked to the desk. When they drove me to despair in my past life, did anyone speak up for me? Now that they're reaping what they sowed, why should I pretend to care? Outside the window, another bolt of lightning split the night sky, followed by the low rumble of thunder. Someone anonymously posted Alohan's detailed hospitalization information in the class group. Room 712. 7th floor east wing of City Hospital, right leg fracture, mild concussion, expected 2-week stay. The post even included her daily examination schedule. In room 712, the door stood slightly ajar. Through the gap, Alohan could be seen propped against the headboard, her right leg in a suspended cast, face bandaged. She was staring at her phone with a furrowed brow. No flowers or get-well cards adorned the bedside, just her mother mechanically peeling an apple. Muffled voices drifted from the water dispenser at the end of the hallway, 2 nurses chatting. "That girl in 712 is so pitiful, had nightmares again last night," said the younger nurse. The older nurse pursed her lips. "Pitiful." The news said how many classmates she poisoned selling those pills. Another one of her schoolmates was admitted to 715 this morning, kidney and liver failure, just 18. Room 715 stood nearby, its door shut but the window revealing several shadowy figures inside, on the bench outside the hospital. Wendy's mother trembled uncontrollably while reading a medical report. The corner of the document revealed bold, alarming words, "Poor prognosis requiring long-term treatment." The July sun blazed mercilessly. Hundreds of unread messages flooded the class group chat. A newly created anonymous group link circulated repeatedly, titled Demanding Justice. I clicked the link to find 20-some members already in the group. The pinned post showed a lab report with all liver function markers in dangerous red, captioned, "Doctor says I can never drink again, while that bitch keeps playing the victim." The replies grew increasingly vitriolic. "My parents wasted over 10 grand on tutoring fees for nothing. Wasn't her place seized? Where's the money then? Just paying compensation isn't enough. I want her to suffer living hell too." Scrolling further down, someone posted clearly sneaky photos of Alohan's hospital room. The latest messages were discussing concrete action plans. Her mom won't be home tomorrow afternoon, and the caretakers change shifts at 2. No surveillance in the east stairwell. "I'll bring the rope. Who's got a camera?" I turned off my phone and waited at the bus stop. Cars streamed past, pedestrians hurried by. No one noticed the turmoil beneath this high schooler's calm exterior. My phone vibrated again. It was a notification from that anonymous group. Kane had sent a message: meet at the hospital's east gate tomorrow at 2 p.m., bring masks and hats. If you don't want to come, just pretend you never saw this. Immediately, 7 or 8 replies popped up. Some asked for details, others confirmed their attendance. The last one came from an unfamiliar account: I've got pepper spray and zip ties, that bitch won't know what hit her. I closed the group chat and turned on the TV. Local news was covering the high school drug case. The footage showed Alohan's family's health supplement company with its doors sealed shut. The reporter said the case had been transferred to prosecutors, and Alohan's father might face charges for manufacturing and selling counterfeit drugs. Reports indicate 5 victimized students have been hospitalized, 2 in critical condition. Experts warn the drugs contain banned substances that could cause permanent liver and kidney damage. I switched channels to an old movie playing. The male lead said, "Revenge is like a snowball, once it starts rolling, there's no stopping it." Late at night, I lay in bed listening to occasional cars passing outside. What would happen at the hospital tomorrow at 2 p.m.? I turned over, pushing the thought away. When they drove me to despair in my past life, did any of them ever hesitate? My phone screen lit up in the dark with a new message in the anonymous group. A quick glance showed Kane's final confirmation: proceed as planned tomorrow, bring your gear, and don't register under real names. I didn't reply, just silenced my phone and placed it on the nightstand. Once the gears of revenge start turning, they can't be stopped, and me, I only needed to be a silent observer. Outside the window, a pale moon hung in the sky like a cold, indifferent eye. At 1:45 p.m. I sat at my desk staring at the live surveillance feed from City General Hospital on my computer screen. This wasn't hacking, just the publicly accessible security system displayed in the hospital lobby, viewable by anyone through the visitor portal on their official website. The East Wing lobby bustled with activity in the footage, adjusting the camera angle. I spotted several masked youths lingering near the elevators, though deliberately spaced apart. Their familiar silhouettes and postures were unmistakable: Kane, Naira, and 3 other boys from our class. My phone screen lit up with the latest message in that anonymous group chat: in position, awaiting signal. The sender was Kane. On the security monitor, Kane checked his phone and gestured to the others. They entered the elevator in groups, with someone pressing the 7th floor button. I switched to the hallway camera feed on the 7th floor. The image was grainy but identifiable. At 2:03 a.m., the elevator doors opened. Kane stepped out first, scanning both ways before striding toward room 712. The others followed closely, with Naira lingering at the rear, constantly glancing back. I switched camera angles to the feed outside room 712. Kane paused at the door, pulling something from his backpack to distribute. Then he shoved the door open violently, and all 5 filed inside. There were no cameras inside the room, but the hallway mic picked up a shrill scream followed by a heavy thud. A nurse rushed from the station, peered toward 712, then hesitantly approached. Just then, the door to room 712 burst open as Naira rushed out to intercept the nurse, frantically gesturing to explain something. The nurse frowned and shook her head, prompting Naira to suddenly grab her arm. Simultaneously, Kane leaned out from the room and sprayed something directly into the nurse's face. The nurse clutched her face and crouched down while Kane and Naira swiftly retreated into the room, slamming the door shut. I switched back to the lobby surveillance feed and saw the receptionist answering a phone call with panicked expressions. 2 minutes later, 3 security guards sprinted toward the elevators. At the same moment, the window of room 712 suddenly shattered as a dark figure plunged from the 7th floor amid the sound of breaking glass. The surveillance footage shook violently as chaos erupted among the crowd. I quickly switched to the hospital's exterior cameras and spotted Alohan lying on the lawn, her right leg cast shattered, face covered in blood, hospital gown torn to shreds, with distinct ligature marks visible on her wrists. Security guards and medical staff swarmed the scene, some shouting into walkie-talkies, others performing CPR. In the distance, police sirens grew louder. I turned off the surveillance feed and grabbed my phone. The anonymous group chat was in complete chaos. What the hell happened? Weren't we just supposed to scare her? Have you lost your mind? Kane, cops are coming, everyone wipe your records. The last message was from Kane, she had it coming. Then the group got disbanded, all traces vanished. I scrubbed all related data and apps from my phone, then walked to the window. Summer sunlight still streamed in, sparrows hopping along power lines. In the distance, 3 police cruisers wailed towards City General Hospital. The TV automatically switched to breaking news. We're receiving reports of a violent assault at City General Hospital where multiple teens stormed a ward and attacked a female patient. The victim fell from the 7th floor and is currently in critical condition. The scene cuts to the hospital where a reporter speaks rapidly. Sources reveal all suspects are student victims of the recent smart drug incident, and the girl who fell is Alohan, the alleged seller of these banned substances. By evening, local news updated, 5 involved students are now in police custody, 2 being minors. Victim Aloan remains in critical condition at ICU. Authorities confirm this case will merge with the prior smart drug investigation, with potential additional charges pending. My phone vibrated, a school-wide alert. All 12th graders must attend an emergency meeting tomorrow at 9 a.m., no exceptions. I know this show's nearing its finale. Tomorrow, the school will announce disciplinary actions. The police will update their findings, and I'll keep playing my role as the invisible bystander. The desk lamp casts my shadow on the wall, stretching it unnaturally tall. So this is what vengeance tastes like. No exhilarating rush as imagined, yet strangely absent of remorse too, just like watching a film whose ending you've known all along. Outside the window, a gust of wind rustles through the leaves. What fresh dawn awaits when the sun rises tomorrow? Aloan is dead. The morning news delivered the announcement in clinical tones. Aloan, the victim of yesterday's assault at City Hospital, succumbed to her injuries at 3 a.m. despite emergency treatment. The case has been upgraded from intentional assault to homicide, with 5 student suspects now facing graver criminal charges. I turned off the TV and slowly chewed my breakfast toast. The bread was dry, and I had to wash it down with water. Outside, the sunlight streamed through the window, a perfect day for graduation. My phone kept vibrating. The class group chat was eerily silent, but private messages were flooding in. I skimmed through a few, panicked questions and frantic attempts to distance themselves. No one mentioned Aloan, no mourning, just self-preservation. I put on my uniform and adjusted the collar in the mirror. The boy staring back had calm, unreadable eyes. After all, I'd faced life and death long before they had. 2 police cars were parked at the school gate, officers in uniform checking student IDs. I handed mine over calmly, a glance, and they waved me through. The auditorium was thick with tension. The principal stood on the podium, his face ashen. Students who normally chattered like sparrows now sat as quiet as frightened quails, all heads bowed to avoid being called out. This was supposed to be our graduation ceremony, the principal said hoarsely. But due to the disgraceful actions of certain students, it's now become an emergency disciplinary meeting. His stern gaze swept across the room. All students involved in yesterday's hospital incident, whether directly or indirectly, report to the dean's office immediately. The police already have sufficient evidence. Voluntary confession may reduce your penalties. No one moved. The silence was so profound you could hear the hum of the air conditioning. The principal sighed and continued. As for the other students, diplomas and academic records will be issued as usual. However, given the severity of this incident, the school has decided to cancel all group celebrations. After the meeting, students rushed out like refugees fleeing a disaster. I took my time packing my bag and noticed Wendy's seat was empty. Rumor had it her condition worsened last night, and she'd been transferred to the provincial hospital. Elliot, homeroom teacher MS, Olivia called out to me. Come here for a moment. I followed her into the office where 2 plainclothes officers were seated. The older one looked up at me and asked, "You're Elliot, from Class 2, Grade 12. Yes, I nodded. We're investigating the Aloan case and have some questions for you. He gestured for me to sit. What was your relationship with Aloan? Just classmates, I replied. We didn't interact much. The young officer flipped through his notebook. Some classmates mentioned you never drank the herbal remedies Aloan sold. That's right, I have a sensitive stomach and avoid herbal medicine, I said without blinking, especially unverified concoctions like this. Then what? Did you ever have conflicts with Aloan? I shook my head. No, I'm quite introverted and rarely participated in class activities. The officers exchanged glances. The senior one continued. Do you know who was involved in yesterday's hospital incident? I don't know. I met his gaze directly. I was at home yesterday, studying college material in advance. They asked a few more questions, and I answered truthfully. I hadn't participated in any group discussions, hadn't been to the hospital, and only knew about the incident from news reports. Every word was true, except for omitting the crucial part. I'd foreseen all this long ago. The officer closed his notebook. All right. Thanks for cooperating. Contact us anytime if you remember anything important. Stepping out of the office, the campus was nearly empty. I passed the bulletin board still displaying college acceptance announcements. Ironically, I was the only one from my class who made the list. When I got home, there was an email waiting in my inbox. I clicked it open. It was an acceptance letter from State University, the school I'd dreamed of attending in my past life. I stared at the screen for a long time before calmly shutting down the computer. That evening, local news updated the case. 3 more students have turned themselves in for the hospital violence homicide. Police indicate over 10 individuals may be involved. Primary suspect Kane and others face murder charges, with potential sentences exceeding 10 years. 5. The scene cut to Wendy's mother, lying gaunt on a hospital bed. Our Wendy is a victim too. She's now suffering liver and kidney failure. requiring lifelong treatment. Those kids were so reckless. I turned off the TV and stepped onto the balcony. Night fell as city lights twinkled like stars. At this moment in my past life, I was already lying cold in the morgue while those who killed me celebrated their graduation. No, our positions were completely reversed. My phone vibrated with the final message in the class group chat. Naira had posted, "I'm turning myself in. Being Kane's lookout makes me an accomplice, right? Hopefully the judge will go easy since I'm still a minor." I deleted all class-related messages and photos from my phone. Tomorrow I'll enroll at the provincial university to start a new life. As for those who hurt me, Kane will spend his prime decade behind bars. Wendy will struggle with failing organs, and the others involved in the violence will carry criminal records that'll alter their lives forever. Not a single drop of blood stains my hands. The university acceptance letter glowed softly under the desk lamp. I carefully tucked it into the drawer before turning off the light. Outside the window, a full moon hung high in the sky. Tomorrow would be another new day. The end. Story 2. I was the third princess of the Azure Dragon clan, yet I fell for a lowly white rat. My father was utterly disappointed in me and passed the throne to my younger sister instead. I had no desire for power, only wishing to spend my life with my beloved rat husband. To elevate his bloodline, I drained my own vital essence without hesitation, helping him grow stronger step by step. Soon after, it evolved into a mighty white tiger. I was now carrying the fruit of our love within me. On the day of childbirth, my beloved white rat husband pierced my heart in my moment of weakness. He coldly declared, "You should have died long ago. Only a noble princess like Tess deserves the glory of being with me." The white tiger, my younger sister, walked in smiling, with the white mouse nestling by her side. I collapsed in despair. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day of choosing my companion beast. Without hesitation, the white mouse chose to stay with my sister. Their smug grins told me everything they'd been reborn to. A cold laugh echoed in my heart. Little did my sister know, without my aid, White Rat was nothing but a feeble creature. For I alone am the true heir of the divine bloodline. In the grand hall of the divine temple, my father the emperor gazed at me with icy detachment. "Naira, would you truly forsake all these divine beasts for that wretched creature?" At this moment, I became certain I had truly been reborn. In my past life, I had stood in this very temple, pouring my heart out to the white mouse, begging for my father's blessing. The divine officials and celestial generals stood utterly dumbfounded. My father, the emperor, was thoroughly disappointed in me. He granted my request but thereafter completely ignored my existence. Recalling the nauseating sweet talk from my past life while staring at that white rat's cunning face made my stomach churn. I must have been blind to ever fall for this ungrateful beast. Amidst the murmurs of the crowd, the white mouse suddenly spoke. Falling to its knees, it said reverently, "Your Majesty, I share no affection with Princess Naira. Everything before was merely her unrequited fantasy. The one I truly love is young Princess Tess." The emperor roared in fury. "How dare you! You shall not toy with the dignity of our royal princesses. Guards, seize this wretched beast." As the lowly third princess, I couldn't care less about my own ruin, but our father would never permit his heir apparent, my sister, to unite with this hopeless creature. My sister stopped the guards, helping the white rat to its feet as she pleaded, "Father, don't underestimate this rat. 1. Within 3 years, it will evolve into the legendary divine beast, the white tiger." The emperor questioned skeptically, "How can you be so certain?" My younger sister declared confidently, "Just days ago, I awakened the eye of divinity and learned I am the reincarnation of the god of war. Once I ascend to godhood, I shall lead the divine race to glory alongside the white rat. The divine race has a prophecy: when the god of war descends, a new golden age shall dawn upon our people." My sister's deception aligned perfectly with the ancient legend. From the celestial emperor to the lowest divine official, all were swept up in jubilation. The emperor immediately decreed my sister's coronation as the future divine sovereign. The courtiers knelt in unison, paying homage to the royal heir. The white mouse knelt on one knee, holding a glittering gemstone in its paws. "With deep affection," it said, "this enchanted stone is my token of love for you. May it please your heart." Amidst the crowd's cheers, the white mouse embraced its sister tenderly. In that instant, it felt like my heart was stabbed all over again. That precious spirit stone was my mother's final gift to me before she passed. As the ceremony drew to a close, White Rat and my sister stared at me with mocking eyes. Those two despicable lovers must be feeling awfully pleased with themselves now. Little does my sister know, without my help, the white rat shall never become the white tiger. The glory he seeks will forever remain beyond his grasp in this lifetime. Not even my beloved white rat husband realizes the true reincarnation of the war god is none other than myself. At the tender age of 10, I had already awakened the soul of the war god within me. Otherwise, the power of an ordinary deity would never be enough to evolve it into a white tiger. Only I am destined to lead our divine race to glory. Once I ascend to godhood, not even the divine emperor himself could stand against me. As the ceremony drew to a close, the emperor said impassively, "Naira, you shall choose another spirit beast." I pointed to the bluebird in the corner, the guardian of the garden, this one. A flicker of disappointment crossed the emperor's eyes, but he remained silent. My younger sister sneered, "Little sister, you passed up mighty divine beasts for this fragile bluebird. Birds are fickle creatures. Choosing this worthless one, have you lost your mind?" I said coldly. "In 3 years, you'll see who's the sparrow and who's the phoenix." Returning to my chambers, I began investing substantial resources to nurture this low-born bluebird. My choice of the bluebird wasn't foolishness. At 12 years old, my own sister set me up and put me in grave danger. The bluebird arrived just in time to save my life. That day, I was severely wounded and lost consciousness. Afterwards, the emperor merely gave my sister a stern reprimand as punishment. This came as no surprise to me. The emperor's disdain for me likely rivaled that for my sister. My mother suffered a difficult labor during my birth, leaving her in perpetual poor health. My mother passed away when I was 5. My sister cursed me as a jinx, demanding I die to atone for our mother's death. The emperor treated me with icy indifference, so when I awakened the memories of my past life as a war god at age 10, I told no one. I feared if this secret were exposed, the emperor and my sister would kill me to steal my destiny. When I ascend to godhood, I'll make them pay in blood. Under my meticulous care, the azure bird evolved into a noble 7-colored divine phoenix within just 1 year. The azure bird's loyalty to me is absolute, 1,000 times greater than that white rat's. It repeatedly begged to become my life partner, but I always refused. The bluebird said plaintively, "Naira, have I done something wrong? Why are you so reluctant to accept me?" I replied coldly, "You males are always so fickle, I can't trust you." Suddenly, a sharp whistling sound came from the distance. The emperor descended into the courtyard with my younger sister, landing gracefully from the sky. This might be the first time father has ever visited my quarters. The moment he landed, father declared with authority, "Naira, your sister's bonded white rat suffered critical injuries during its failed evolution. I require something from you to heal the creature." I smiled bitterly. "All your treasures went to my sister. What could I possibly have left?" The emperor said coldly, "You must have what I seek." I asked, "What is it?" My sister smirked cunningly, "Your lifeblood and marrow." In an instant, my face turned deathly pale. The royal blood and marrow of a divine princess possess miraculous healing powers, capable of reviving the dead and regenerating flesh. In my past life, I sacrificed my essence, blood and marrow every year to feed the white rat. Empowered by my gifts, the white rat grew increasingly formidable step by step. When my sister underwent apotheosis, she nearly failed due to encountering an overwhelming divine tribulation. The white rat expended its own cultivation, releasing the power it had absorbed over the years, transforming it into divine rays of light. With the aid of this divine radiance, my sister successfully weathered the heavenly tribulation and ascended to godhood. Never did I imagine that even in this reborn life, I'd still end up as their sacrificial pawn. I demanded furiously, "By what right?" My sister shot me a venomous glare and sneered, "Because you're worthless. Because you're the reason our mother died. One day I'll inherit father's throne. With divine emperor's power, I'll lead our people to glory, while you'll cower in the shadows, keeping company with those filthy birds. If your pathetic blood and marrow can help white rats evolve, that'd be the only worth your useless existence has." I was shaking with rage, my head spinning with dizziness. I turned to my father with pleading eyes. The emperor's tone softened slightly as he said with a hint of remorse, "Tess is the reincarnation of the god of war, bearing the divine mission of our people. Naira, for the sake of our entire race, I must ask you to endure this hardship." My heart turned to ashes, and I ceased all arguments. Just as I resigned to fate, the azure bird suddenly revealed its true form as a radiant phoenix, charging madly toward the emperor and my sister. "Naira, I'll hold them off. You must flee now, too." I stared at the azure bird in stunned silence. A mere sparrow dares to challenge the divine emperor. Has it gone completely mad? The emperor father effortlessly parried with the azure bird. Within mere minutes, the azure bird was drenched in blood and forced back to its true form. Had it not been my bonded mate, it would have perished at the emperor's first strike. The bluebird rose from the pool of blood, gritting its teeth to fight again. Only at this moment did I truly understand, not everyone is as heartless and ungrateful as those white rats. The one who truly loves me, willing to lay down their life for me, has been by my side all along. With tears in my eyes, I stepped in front of Qingyao and whispered, "Stop fighting, I'll do as they ask." The enraged Qingyao prepared to strike again. "They'll have to walk over my dead body before harming you." With a gentle palm strike, I knocked Qingyao unconscious and ordered the maid to take her away to rest. Then I followed my father and younger sister to the temple. The emperor took a dagger and personally cut open my body. My sister used a sharp blade to extract my vital essence and marrow, filling an entire vial. The agony was unbearable, cold sweat pouring from my forehead like rain. After what felt like an eternity of torment, they finally collected enough vital essence and marrow, barely clinging to life. The temple priest stitched my wounds and forced healing elixirs down my throat. After 10 agonizing days bedridden, I could finally stagger to my feet, leaning heavily on attendants as they guided me home. The azure bird's fury knew no bounds when it saw my haggard state. It vowed to make them pay for this outrage when the time came. I gently stroked its feathers and reassured, that day will come. That night, the azure bird became my true companion. As the reincarnation of the god of war, my divine fortune also extended to my partner. The azure bird now harbored the purest divine energy within. Only a catalyst away from ascension, the white rat that betrayed me showed no signs of evolution. Despite being nourished with vital essence and marrow, 2 years passed, and the divine heir ceremony commenced. My sister, clad in sacred robes, stood at the center of the ascension platform alongside the white rat. Below, the divine emperor led thousands of celestial officials and warriors in solemn observation. The divine race's fortune wanes. Only the war god's incarnation can save us now. Princess Tess ascends today. Inheriting the war god's power, our divine race's revival is at hand. Thank the heavens Princess Tess proves worthy. Had she followed Naira's frivolous ways, playing with songbirds all day, our race would be doomed. Princess Naira brings shame to the royal house, no sense of dignity, not an ounce of ambition. The murmurs of the crowd cut like knives. My expression remained calm, as if I heard nothing. On the divine altar, Tess is digging her own grave and will soon face divine retribution. Soon they'll learn who truly deserves the title of Godslayer. In an instant, the younger sister and the white rat unleashed their divine power, commencing their heavenly tribulation. Thunderbolts instantly rolled across the sky, transforming into boundless divine energy that engulfed the two figures on the ascension platform. The younger sister let out agonized cries, her demeanor utterly disheveled. The feeble white rat lasted mere moments before being forcibly reverted to its original form. After an hour, the divine tribulation concluded. My sister, disheveled and bloodied, barely survived the ordeal. The white rat, too weak to endure the trial, lay dying on the ground, gazing at me with remorseful eyes. In its past life, when the white rat underwent the tribulation by my side, it evolved directly into a white tiger and passed with ease. Now stripped of all its cultivation, it looked as pitiful as a drowned rat. I smirked and mouthed silently, "Serves you right." Tess, having successfully weathered the tribulation, cast a disdainful glance at the white rat. "Quit playing dead. When I inherit the war god's power later, I'll spare your life." The injured white rat dragged its battered body down the divine ascension platform in wretched defeat. The white rat still made excuses for itself as it scurried past me. "Naira, don't get cocky. Once Tess inherits the war god's power, I'll evolve into a white tiger too, and we'll stand together at the pinnacle of the divine race." The bluebird kicked it hard, sending it flying several meters away. The emperor said with relief, "Tess, now that you've ascended to godhood, swiftly inherit the power of the war god. Our millions of divine kin have awaited this moment for far too long." The ministers chanted in unison, "Princess Tess, inherit the power and ascend the divine throne." My younger sister on the platform was visibly flustered. He'd been falsely claiming to be the reincarnation of the god of war, but now the truth could no longer be concealed. With no other choice, the younger sister raised her hands to the heavens, devoutly praying for the war god's mercy to grant her strength. After kneeling awkwardly for half an hour, not a single sign came from the heavens. Blushing with embarrassment, the younger sister explained, "Father, I'm simply too exhausted today. I'll claim the war god's power after I've rested properly." The emperor's face darkened as he remained silent. The court officials whispered among themselves, doubting the truth of Tess's words. I knew my moment for counterattack had arrived. I took Qingyao's hand and strode to the center of the ascension altar. Tess scowled as usual, snapping at me. "Naira, what are you doing here? Stop embarrassing yourself with that wretched bird. Get lost." I sneered. The war god's power would never manifest in the unworthy. You may steal that white rat from me, but you can never steal my destiny. My sister snapped angrily. "If I can't do it, do you really think you can?" I smiled and said, "Indeed, I am the war god incarnate." The emperor roared in fury, "Naira, your reckless words before the court have shamed the royal family. 3 guards, take Naira to the celestial dungeon and torture her as punishment." The ministers buzzed with discussion. "Naira and that bird think they can ascend to godhood. Dream on. A single divine thunderbolt would reduce them to ashes. Naira's really going all out just to steal the spotlight." Ignoring the crowd's whispers, I clasped Xingyao's hand as we channeled our combined power to summon the divine tribulation once more. From the royal stands, the emperor struck out in fury. A golden palm imprint descended upon me with terrifying pressure, carrying the weight of divine wrath. This was the critical moment of my divine tribulation. For celestial beings, surviving the tribulation is a matter of life and death. Success means ascension to godhood, gaining immense power and eternal life. Failure would reduce one to a crippled wreck, like that lifeless rat on the ground. Some might even be scared out of their wits. At this critical juncture, my father the emperor turned against me, powerless to resist. I could only watch helplessly as the golden palm imprint drew nearer. "Don't you dare lay a finger on her," the bluebird once again blocked my path. With an enraged cry to the heavens, its body erupted in prismatic radiance, swelling with the wind until it transformed into a 300-foot-long phoenix. A single graceful wingbeat scattered the emperor's assault before it soared skyward, casting its majestic gaze upon the land below. A flicker of terror flashed through the emperor's eyes. No, impossible. The phoenix of the divine race went extinct millennia ago. How could it possibly reappear now? The phoenix is a mythical beast of legend, its lineage even more formidable than that of the white tiger. The azure bird let out a skyward cry and soared into the clouds. In the blink of an eye, it had fully transcended the divine tribulation and landed before me. "Naira, please bestow upon me a name." I gazed at it calmly and said indifferently, "You've already evolved from a bluebird to a phoenix with my power. Why would you need me to name you? Perhaps following my father or Tess would lead you to a brighter future." Seeing Bluebird's current success, I can't help but remember White Mouse from the old days. During my darkest hours, White Mouse was always by my side. As a child abandoned in the cold palace, my imperial father wouldn't spare me a glance all year. The palace eunuchs skimmed nearly all my daily necessities. On freezing nights when I was 7 or 8, shivering sleepless, it was the white rat who brought me warmth for to barely survive the bitter winter. We made a pact to stay together for life. Little did I know we could weather storms together, but never share prosperity. The white rat stayed not out of loyalty, but for lack of opportunity. The higher the hopes, the harder the fall. Facing the phoenix-transformed azure bird, I no longer hold any expectations. The azure bird's eyes burned with resolve. "Naira, you may kill me, but you cannot drive me away, even in death. Until my last breath, I'll remain your bonded beast." The bluebird's words quietly melted my long-frozen heart. Fighting back tears with a tingling nose, I said, "Very well, I name you Cashin." Birds embody fire, phoenixes dance across heavens. As a divine beast, you shall soar the skies and protect all people. Thrilled with his new name, Cashin did an excited loop in the sky. "Thank you for the name, Naira." A whirlwind of complex emotions, envy, jealousy, loathing, flashed through Tessa's eyes. She shrieked sharply, "Naira, how dare you let your familiar show such disrespect to the Emperor?" The Emperor gazed at Cashin soaring across the sky, a glint of avarice flickering in his eyes. Clearing his throat, he resumed his facade of regal authority. "Cashin, you were once my garden guardian. Your ascension to phoenixhood wasn't Naira's doing. It was our divine clan's resources that forged you. If you pledge allegiance to our house, I shall appoint you as the Grand Marshal of the realm." Cashin asked, "What does pledge allegiance mean?" Tess immediately grasped her father's intent and blurted, "It means becoming my bonded beast. Neither my father nor I shall ever wrong you again." Beneath the stands, the newly awakened white rat dragged its wounded body in terror. Scrambling onto the platform once more, "Tess, what about me?" A flicker of disgust flashed in Tessa's eyes. "If you're still salvageable, you can serve as my bonded beast alongside Cashin. If you fail to evolve by the time I inherit the war god's power, you might as well just die." Tear streaks ran clean through the bloodied fur on the white rat's face. "I bet it's sick with regret by now. Too bad it's far too late. A wretched creature like this deserves nothing but a lonely, lingering death." Seeing Cashin remain unmoved, the Emperor raised the stakes again. "Name your terms, everything is negotiable. Naira is merely the third princess, no power, no prospects. If she forces her tribulation, she'll either perish or end up a cripple. You've transformed from a mere bluebird into a phoenix. Don't you crave soaring to greater heights?" Cashin spread his wings midair and unleashed a torrent of flames from his maw. The inferno rained down, leaving the Emperor and Tess charred from head to toe. The damage was minimal, but the humiliation burned deep. The Emperor's wrath erupted, his divine aura radiating once more. "What can a mere phoenix do? The dignity of our divine race is not to be defied." In an instant, tens of thousands of celestial warriors emerged from the clouds. Even in his newly transformed phoenix form, Cashin stood no chance against their combined might. I lay facing the heavens, eyes closed, silently awaiting the divine tribulation. The gloomy sky was alive with thunder and lightning. Even the divine soldiers surrounding me dared not approach recklessly. A divine thunderbolt as thick as a barrel engulfed my body, yet left me unharmed. The divine warrior power hidden within me was fully awakened by the thunder strike. My body began levitating uncontrollably as celestial music echoed through the heavens, while auspicious violet mist slowly enveloped our sacred sect. The nearly depleted divine energy between heaven and earth surged back to fullness. The aged deity, whose life force was nearly exhausted, suddenly regained the vitality of his youth. The divine crown and robes bestowed by heaven gradually descended upon me. In contrast, Tessa's sacred vestments appeared dull and lifeless, as if stolen. I fixed her with an icy stare, a genuine smile curling my lips. The hatred spanning 2 lifetimes could finally be settled. This impostor is about to pay the price. The god of war descends, bending all laws to his will, sending the entire pantheon into frenzy, darkening the skies. A massive host of hundreds of thousands emerges from the clouds. These were the pantheon's elder statesmen, long retired to mountain seclusion as their vital energies waned. They were so overwhelmed at seeing me again that they prostrated themselves from miles away. All hail the return of the god of war. The crowd roared in unison, their voices shaking the heavens. Even my father, clad in resplendent golden robes, paled in comparison to me. The sheer pressure radiating from me at this moment is enough to terrify everyone. With but a single thought, I could reduce my father the Emperor and his thousands of divine soldiers to ashes. The Emperor saw pure murder gleaming in my eyes. For the first time in his century-long reign, fear flickered in the monarch's gaze. Naira, I am your father Emperor. Are you attempting treason? I sneered coldly. The divine ancestors decreed. When the war god is absent, the divine emperor may temporarily wield their authority. Now that I've returned as the war god, tell me who exactly is rebelling against whom. The truth lay bare before us, yet my father still refused to relinquish power. The emperor clung to his last shred of authority, demanding, "How can you prove you've inherited the war god's full power?" In his eyes, I'll always remain that worthless, unwanted little girl. Only Tess is worthy to ascend the divine throne and succeed his reign. No matter how hard I strive, I'll forever be my sister's stepping stone. Now this stepping stone shall take flight, smashing the arrogant fools who look down on me until their heads split and blood flows. My brow furrowed slightly, and heaven and earth instantly darkened. Crushed by the terrifying pressure, the emperor and Tess lay prostrate in disgrace. Thousands of divine warriors buckled under the residual force. Dropping to one knee before me, I sneered coldly, "Father Emperor, is this proof enough now?" Blood trickled from the Emperor's lips as he barely raised his head, forcing out 3 words through clenched teeth, "It's enough." A cold glint flashed in Cashin's eyes. "Naira, why waste words on these vermin? Have you forgotten how they treated you back then?" I asked with a chuckle. "What do you suggest then?" Cashin roared in fury, "Execute your father, Tess, and all their lackeys as a warning to others." The emperor cried in panic, "Naira, patricide is an unforgivable sin. Do you want to be branded as disloyal and unfilial for life?" For, at this moment, Tess was trembling in terror, too frightened to utter a word. Killing them now would be letting them off too easy. "Neither life nor death frightens me. The true terror is living with a blade perpetually at your throat," I said tonelessly. 7 days from now marks my mother's death anniversary. Make preparations, we shall pay tribute at the Queen's mausoleum. With that, I turned and left with Cashin. Only after I'd gone some distance did my prostrate father and Tess dare rise from the ground. Tonight, instead of returning to the derelict cold palace, I entered the imperial palace directly. While my mother the Queen was alive, I lived in the splendid pavilion. When I was 5, my mother's condition worsened and she passed away, unloved and forgotten. I was soon moved to the frigid cold palace. My memories of the magnificent imperial palace remain but faint impressions. Stepping back into the chambers I once shared with the Queen Mother felt like awakening from a long dream. This time, no one dared stand in my way. The maids prepared my quarters and served exotic delicacies with the finest ambrosial wines. A summer night glittered with starlight. I lay sideways on the bed, cradling a wine cup, gazing wistfully at the twinkling stars in the night sky beyond the window. Outside the window lay the Imperial Gardens lake. Cashin's figure shimmered faintly beneath the water's surface, bare-chested and dripping wet. He emerged from the water and perched sideways on the windowsill, his body nearly touching mine. "Naira, what's on your mind?" My fingers traced along Cashin's chiseled jawline, trailing down to his firm chest and well-defined abs. Under the starlight, Cashin's pupils shimmered with a faint iridescent glow. I chuckled softly. "How come I never noticed before? You're actually quite handsome." The old Cashin always stood silently behind me, wearing that quiet, reticent look. I knew it was his inferiority complex. He believed his guardian status made him unworthy to stand by my side. Now that he's risen as a phoenix, he can finally lay down the burden in his heart. With growing boldness, Cashin climbed onto my bed. He breathed softly against my earlobe. "Naira, I finally have the right to be with you properly. Everything I have, you gave me, and you are my everything." Fighting back my fluster, I gave him a light push. "Stop fooling around. I need to rest. Get out." Cashin leaned down, pressing his lips to mine with a husky whisper. "You won't be rid of me tonight." When I first made the pact with Cashin to become my familiar, Many warned me that avian spirits were fickle lovers. At first, I didn't believe them. Just a little bird. How much trouble could it possibly cause? It wasn't until the next morning, when my entire body ached with exhaustion, leaving me too sore to even rise from bed, that I truly understood the consequences. As I tried to get up, Cashin pulled me back into his arms, murmuring, "Naira, I'm not done sleeping yet." Too weak to resist, I surrendered to his embrace. Suddenly, a guard's voice came from outside the door. "Your Highness Naira, you have a visitor." Cashin sat up grumpily from the bed, muttering, "Who the hell has such perfect timing to ruin the mood?" Seeing his sulky expression, I couldn't help but chuckle. I planted a kiss on Cashin's cheek and whispered, "Don't worry, we've got all the time in the world." After a quick freshening up, I stepped out of the lavish chamber. In the dead of night, a torrential downpour began. By dawn, the rain intensified into a relentless curtain of water. Outside the main hall, a faint figure knelt in the shadows. With just one glance, I recognized who it was. I'd recognize that bastard even if he were burned to ashes. Seated upon the dragon throne that once belonged to my father, I coldly commanded, "Let the wretch crawl in." Ever since I ascended as the god of war, the emperor has deliberately kept his distance. Perhaps he fears my power. Or maybe his conscience weighs too heavily for him to face me. After I moved into the palace, he took up residence at the mountain temple. Now I reign as master of the imperial palace. Soon after, the drenched and disheveled white rat was dragged into the temple by guards. Today he shed the lavish garments bestowed by Tess, donning coarse linen instead. His tattered, patched-up garment sent me spiraling into memories. Back when White Mouse hadn't yet taken human form, just a little white rodent. On the day of its transformation, it stood there stark naked, without a decent stitch to wear. I fashioned its first garment from the old clothes off my own back. The sight of that old jacket brought back memories of when White Rat and I had only each other to rely on. Pity he could no longer stir any love in my heart. I asked coldly, "Why come to me instead of Tess?" White Rat said meekly, "I'm worthless now. Tess threw me out like trash." I sat high upon the dragon throne, flanked by imposing imperial guards. At the foot of the 99 steps stood the drenched white rat. Gazing at the pitiful creature's wretched state, I felt no mercy, only the sweet satisfaction of vengeance served. With a mocking laugh, I sneered, "You exiled trash should have stayed banished from the divine clans. What brings you crawling to my doorstep?" The white rat put on an innocent look, gazing at me pitifully. "Naira, after all these years together, how could you be so heartless to forget me just like that?" I sneered. "Of course I won't forget. I treasured you like a precious gem, yet you cast me aside like worthless trash to chase power. The love I once felt for you has turned to equal measure of hatred." The white rat pleaded desperately, "Naira, I was such a scoundrel before. I'll do anything if you'd just forgive me. I'd gladly become your bonded beast alongside Cashin." The white rat's eyes burned with intense longing. His desire wasn't for me, but for the dragon throne beneath me. He'd bed Tess, Naira, or even Queen Naira herself if it meant gaining power. The more such vermin put on airs, the more they turn my stomach. I sneered, "You'd truly do anything for me." The white mouse's eyes burned with even greater hope as he nodded eagerly like a pecking chick. "I swear on my life, every word I say today is true." I couldn't help but laugh before beckoning the guards. "Take him out, gouge his eyes, and see whether his heart is black or red." The guard seized the white mouse by the arms and dragged him from the hall. 5. The white rat shrieked in terror, "Naira, I was wrong. For the sake of all our years together, please spare my life." The palace guard captain asked respectfully, "Your Highness, do you want them dead or alive?" I said coldly, "Alive. Blinding is too merciful. That beast wouldn't survive half the torment I endured. Letting him die like this would be far too lenient. Here's what we'll do: break its legs and send it to the palace as a firewood-gathering eunuch." The captain of guards departed to carry out the orders. A blood-curdling scream soon echoed from outside the chamber door. From this day forth, the white rat could no longer rely on that pretty face to charm women. As a lowly eunuch enduring daily humiliations, chopping firewood became his only salvation. After 7 fleeting days, the emperor prepared to visit the imperial mausoleum to honor my late mother, as I had commanded. It's been 15 full years since the queen mother passed away. By royal protocol, she should be honored during 3 annual memorial observances. These 3 occasions are Qingming Festival, the Ghost Festival, and the anniversary of her passing. Yet for all these 15 years, not a single soul came to pay respects to the queen mother. Only I would visit her resting place each death anniversary, spending what little silver I had to offer simple fruits in remembrance. Yet my father's favorite concubines received lavish sacrificial offerings every year, with unprecedented pomp and ceremony. At first, I couldn't understand why the emperor had forgotten about the empress's death. I once seized an opportunity to remind my father, but all I got in return was a full month of confinement. Only then did I realize Father Emperor was deliberately erasing Mother Empress from memory. It took me considerable investigation to uncover the truth behind this deliberate omission. Today, Father Emperor sat in the imperial carriage with an exceptionally grim expression. For the first time, I received proper princess treatment and rode in the Phoenix carriage. The convoy traveled northward and arrived at the royal mausoleum. Passing by rows of ornate tombs, we stopped before a desolate grave. The neglected grave was overgrown with weeds, its headstone thick with dust. The emperor frowned and said, "Hurry with the offerings, complete the rites and depart swiftly." Tess frowned and grumbled, "This godforsaken place reeks of bad luck. I can't fathom why we had to come here." I shot Tess a frosty glare. "Hold your tongue." Tess ducked behind the emperor, whining, "Your Majesty, look how she treats me. Now that Naira's inherited the war god's power, she dares to strike me. By tomorrow, would you not be seizing His Majesty's throne? Ha, if I wish to take the throne, why wait until tomorrow? As the reincarnation of the god of war, I've brought our divine clan a millennium of opportunity. The elders now follow my lead without question. Dethroning the emperor would require but a single word from me. My father the emperor is no match for me now, neither in strength nor influence. The emperor locked eyes with me for a long moment before finally lowering his gaze. He sighed helplessly. "Tess, slap yourself." With tears in her eyes, Tess protested bitterly, "Father, how could you side with that vile Naira too? You used to dote on me the most." I looked at Tess with contempt, truly recognizing her stupidity for the first time. Without Father Emperor's favor, Tess wouldn't even qualify to be a servant given her incompetence. I couldn't be bothered to waste words on Tess. "Cashin, if she won't slap herself, you'll do it for her later." Cashin understood. When Tess sensed the murderous intent flashing in Cashin's eyes, she reluctantly raised her arm and delivered a feeble slap to her own face. I remarked coldly, "That won't suffice." The emperor frowned and said with compassion, "Naira, no matter what, she remains your sister. You should know when to stop." My father's words died in his throat as my icy glare silenced him completely. Tess raised her arm again and struck herself across the face. Unable to bear it any longer, Cashin lunged forward. Striking with both hands in rapid succession, his slaps rained down like a hailstorm, cracking relentlessly. Tessa's face was beaten crooked, teeth scattered across the floor, her swollen face resembling a pig's head with eyes reduced to slits. Tess initially hurled curses at me, but soon lost even the strength to swear, only able to glare at me with pure hatred. With the foul-mouthed Tess properly disciplined, the sacrificial ceremony officially commenced, at my request. The palace maids began tending to the grave, pulling weeds, cleaning the tombstone, and laying out various offerings. The once gloomy and neglected grave was soon transformed into a pristine state. I stood before the grave and bowed deeply with solemn reverence. After bowing, I turned my gaze to Tess and said, "Your turn." With hatred in her eyes and fury in her heart, Tess reluctantly knelt down. The look of utter disgust on Tessa's face suggested the grave didn't hold her mother, but rather a sworn enemy. After Tess finished kowtowing, the emperor asked angrily, "Are you satisfied now?" I smiled and replied, "Not at all. Tess has already kowtowed. What about you?" The divine emperor flew into a rage. "You expect me, the mighty celestial sovereign, to kneel before a dead woman." In the next instant, I unleashed the oppressive aura of the god of war. My father's arrogant demeanor was instantly crushed under the overwhelming pressure, under my oppressive aura. The emperor raised his head with difficulty and said resentfully, "Your mother's death grieves me too, but I couldn't save her. Giving birth to you drained her vitality. The imperial physicians tried everything. No mortal power could have reversed her fate. I never wronged your mother, and you've no right to humiliate me like this." A husband kneeling before his wife, "Have you no fear of shaming your mother's memory? In the past, I would have fallen for my father's deceptions, but I've uncovered every last one of his misdeeds. Each and every one of these crimes alone would justify executing this heartless traitor. He's unfit to be a husband, unworthy as a father, and doesn't even deserve to be called human." I said coldly, "Today, you shall kneel before mother's grave and repent. Dare to refuse, and I'll cut you down where you stand." The emperor could no longer contain his rage. A murderous glint flashed in his eyes as he suddenly channeled his power and lunged at me. Before I could react, Cashin sent him flying with a backhanded blow, blood spraying from his mouth. With a flick of my finger through the void, a sword forged from cosmic laws materialized above my father's head. The slightest downward motion would reduce him to a lifeless corpse. In that moment, enlightenment finally dawned upon the emperor. No amount of imperial power could cheat death's embrace. When facing life and death, so-called dignity means nothing. The emperor knelt humbly before my mother's grave, bowing his head in shame as he asked, "What would you have me say?" I replied coldly, "Confess every crime you committed and every debt you owe to my mother. You have 1 hour. If you omit or conceal anything, I'll personally send you to meet my mother." The loyal old ministers of the divine court could no longer stand by and watch. "Your Highness Naira, as the newly ascended god of war, why must you press the divine emperor so relentlessly?" Forcing the divine emperor to his death will tarnish your own reputation. Even the god of war must not abuse their power and act without restraint. A group of veteran ministers harbored varying degrees of discontent toward my actions. I said calmly, "Listen well, all of you, the divine emperor you've revered for so long. Let me tell you what glorious deeds he actually committed back then, with my life at stake as leverage." My father had no choice but to kneel before my mother's tomb and reveal the long-buried secret from years past. In those days, my mother was a noblewoman of the divine race, commanding vast resources at her disposal. It was only with the empress's support that the emperor gradually consolidated his reign. Yet once enthroned, the emperor remained unsatisfied. The empress wielded excessive influence, contributed more to the divine lineage, and commanded overwhelming support from veteran court officials. For an exceptionally long period, the emperor's and empress's spheres of power remained nearly equal. Whenever the emperor sought new concubines or squandered public funds on palace construction, the empress would intervene to stop him. Over time, the emperor's resentment grew until he began systematically marginalizing and neglecting the empress. His first act was taking a noblewoman from the divine clan as his concubine, who bore his first child, my younger sister. For years, the emperor secretly administered slow-acting poison to the empress, leaving her perpetually frail. After the concubine gave birth, the emperor secretly arranged for the child to be adopted by the empress under the pretense of doing what was best for her. This way, the childless empress would at least have the chance to experience motherhood. The imperial throne would eventually pass to the child born of the emperor and his concubine. Though it pained her heart, the empress had no choice but to consent. This is already the best possible outcome. 6. If open conflict broke out, the emperor had no confidence in overcoming the empress's faction. All that remained was for the emperor to gradually transfer power to his younger sister, then ally with his concubine to sideline the empress. A bloodless coup, truly a masterstroke. To express gratitude for the empress adopting his sister, the emperor feigned affection and kept her company for those few days. Having been poisoned for years and left unattended after childbirth, the empress succumbed to illness 5 years later. With the empress's passing, her political faction gradually declined, allowing the emperor to consolidate his throne completely. This explains the emperor's blatant favoritism and growing disdain toward me. The courtiers fell into prolonged silence after hearing the emperor's account. None could have imagined that the seemingly righteous, lofty divine emperor would prove to be such scum behind the scenes. Tess, who'd known the truth all along, simply glared at me in silent fury. Stripped of power and dignity, the now destitute emperor fixed me with a venomous stare. "Naira, are you happy now?" With a wave of my hand, the divine robes vanished from my father's body, replaced by coarse sackcloth. Clad in divine crown and robes, I stood at the forefront of the assembled courtiers. From that day forth, I alone remained as the god of war in the divine court. I've stripped the emperor of his cultivation, condemning him to guard my mother's tomb day and night until his dying breath. The emperor shall spend the coming centuries repaying his karmic debt to the late empress, one agonizing day at a time. As for my half-sister Tess, I've mercifully spared her wretched life. I severed her cultivation, chopped off both her hands, and relegated her to the kitchens. Let her scrub vegetables for the eunuchs. White Rat chops firewood while Tess washes vegetables. Their roles complement each other perfectly, reigniting their destined connection. Together with Cashin, I shall assume the Queen Mother's duties and continue safeguarding our divine lineage. The end. Story 2. In my previous life, when the apocalypse broke out, I became the chosen one, possessing top-tier supernatural powers and a system. When everyone regarded me as their leader, I was inexplicably accused of betraying humanity. At the same time, I discovered that my supernatural powers and the system had disappeared. My best friend, whom I had always protected, smiled at me and told me that her supernatural power was copy, which could only be used once. It turned out that I had been framed by her. From then on, I was loathed by everyone, even after my death. They desecrated my body. When I opened my eyes again, my best friend was anxiously urging me, "Savannah, they're all grabbing food. Why aren't you going to grab some?" I pushed her into the horde of zombies and smiled, saying, "Why should I listen to you?" Just after I killed a zombie at the door, Audrey pointed towards the supermarket. "Savannah, they're all grabbing food. Why aren't you going to grab some?" She pulled so hard that my arm hurt, as if it were my fault for not going. I saw them grabbing snacks. "I want to eat steak. Hurry up. If you don't go, there won't be any left." Audrey, my best friend for 11 years, she was also the chief culprit who killed me in my previous life. The night the zombies broke out, we were having barbecued skewers at home. When we noticed something strange in the neighborhood, we decided to go out and check the situation the next day, late at night. Both she and I had a high fever. When I woke up, I found that I could use the supernatural power of light elements, and I also had a system to become stronger. After hearing this, she told me dejectedly that she had only awakened the power-enhancing supernatural power. After an ability user awakens, their physical fitness in all aspects will be enhanced, so I believed her. Worried about her safety, I took the initiative to offer to protect her. We even joked that if I built the strongest base and became the leader, she would be my deputy. I protected her all the way. How did she treat me? Under the pretense of my protection, she pushed all the dirty and tiring work onto me, secretly stole my credit, and even misinterpreted things wantonly. Savannah, I also want to become stronger, but I feel like vomiting when I see zombies. How about you dig out some zombie crystal nuclei for me? I don't seem to have contributed much, but I'm so scared. What will everyone think of me? Can you give me some contribution points? We're best friends. Aren't we? You'll do me this small favor, right? Everyone, don't blame Savannah. She must have been confused for a moment. Hurry up and apologize to everyone. I thought what she wanted was power, but I never imagined that she wanted my supernatural powers, the system, and even my life. Just before I died, I finally understood her plan. She made a big deal out of the photos of my negotiation with the Zombie King, and edited the video of me killing a spy who had always shown loyalty to the outside world to distort the truth. She used me to resolve internal conflicts, obtained information from the enemy, and copied my supernatural powers in the system. Finally, in the name of a close friend, she painstakingly killed me and won the reputation of selfless and impartial, being praised by the world. What a clever scheme of using others to kill and reaping the benefits without lifting a finger, however. So what, in this new life, I will definitely make her pay the price. Coming back to my senses, I pretended to be in a difficult situation. Audrey, I'm not feeling well. She showed concern. Savannah, are you okay? Are you tired just from killing a few zombies with a knife? That's right, I was afraid of exhausting my strength too early, so I didn't use my supernatural powers, and she couldn't see the system either. I scratched my head in embarrassment. Sorry, Audrey. I thought this top-tier supernatural power would appear in me, but actually my supernatural power is speed. She was shocked and carefully examined my expression. Why are you hiding anything from me? We're sisters, aren't we? I took a reluctant look at the supermarket and continued to pretend. Why would I lie to you? There are so many people, and I can't beat them. Besides, it's not safe with the zombie horde nearby. Let's come back in a few days. She still didn't believe me. But I really want to eat steak. Please go and grab some for me. There won't be any left in a few days. How ridiculous. I haven't forgotten that in my previous life, I was surrounded and attacked because I went to grab steak for her. Seeing that I was alone, weak, and fairly good looking, they made lewd remarks and got handsy. I was young and hot-tempered, with my light-based supernatural powers in the system. I naturally fought back. Even with my golden finger, I was outnumbered. Got seriously injured, and also got on the bad side of Jacob, who would later become the leader of another base. So she wants to eat steak that badly. Ha! I smiled and pushed her into the zombie horde at the door. Why should I listen to you? She didn't expect me to do this, and the zombies immediately attacked her. Ah, you, bang, lightning flashed, and a group of surrounding zombies were blown up. Miss, this isn't very appropriate, is it? His voice was as clear and smooth as jade. Unexpectedly, I still couldn't avoid him, the hypocrite Jacob. He stabbed me in the back plenty of times in my previous life. On the surface, he seemed like a gentle and modest gentleman, but in reality, he bullied others by relying on his power and was extremely vengeful. I was just hungry and wanted something to eat. Why did you push me out? She looked on the verge of tears. He agreed. A reasonable request. Everyone should unite now that the zombies have broken out. I sneered. Is that what you said just now? We've been best friends for 11 years. Why are you misinterpreting me? If I'm holding you back, I'll apologize. Here she goes again. I rolled my eyes inwardly. Fine, then apologize. Enough. Jacob stepped in front of her. He smiled slightly. To abandon a best friend of 11 years. Looks can be deceiving. He looked at Audrey. If you don't mind, join my team. I smiled maliciously. I can't afford to serve you. I suggest you stick with their team and don't go and cause trouble for others. Miss, you'd better watch your mouth. Without even looking at me, he took Audrey and left. Naturally, I was happy to see these two, the scumbag and the scheming woman, go, so that I could plan my next move. When I got back to the house, I opened the system, which showed first-order light element ability user and various attributes of my body. I took stock of the supplies and found that they could last for one more day. I decided to go and collect supplies nearby that night. Zombies are more active at night, and most people don't want to go out. There were still a few hours until night. I took out the crystal nuclei and started absorbing them. The stronger I became, the better. That night, I went to a nearby small shopping mall. There were a lot of zombies in the mall, but I handled them with ease thanks to the experience and moves I had accumulated in my previous life. Zombies are dark element based, and my light element powers happened to them. I made a good haul, stuffed the items into the system space, and left some food for other survivors. Savannah, is that you? A familiar voice came. I could tell it was Audrey. Jacob must be with her. What bad luck. Seeing that I didn't respond, she slowly approached me. I was really hurt by what you said during the day. It's so dangerous for you to be alone. Jacob's team still needs a runner. I can ask him to take care of you more. I sneered. Are you that saintly and eager to save people? Her expression turned cold, and she pounced at me. Savannah, don't be ungrateful. I easily dodged and locked her in the utility room. I locked her screams inside as well. I left quickly in a good mood and heard Jacob and the others rushing to rescue her behind me. Even if they rescued her as quickly as possible, she would have been bitten already. Unfortunately, when an ability user is bitten, unlike ordinary people who get infected within a few hours, they will recover after resting for a while depending on the severity of the injury. When I got back to the house, I casually picked up a crystal nucleus from the mountain-like pile and started absorbing it. I wasn't worried that Jacob would come to take revenge on me that night. Taking care of the injured Audrey would be more than enough for him to deal with, and according to my previous life experience, I just happened to break through to become a second-order ability user and unlock the malfunction of the system. In the morning, feeling the surging power, I had successfully entered the second order. I opened the system's mall and took a rough look. It was exactly the same as in my previous life. It had everything from small items like bandages and knives to large items like hot weapons and equipment. I spent 90 points on a Tang Dao. I have to say, the higher level zombies I kill, the more points I get. With limited points, I only bought a few talismans for self-protection. Audrey and her group still hadn't left, so I decided to stay in the town for a few more days and accumulate points by the way. Before taking any new actions, I decided to move to a new place. If Audrey and Jacob sneak attack me while I'm absorbing crystal nuclei, it would be really frustrated. That night, I moved to a nearby house with a basement. During the day, I used the time for sleeping to improve my supernatural powers, and at night, I collected supplies and accumulated ability points. This way, I could improve my strength to the greatest extent. The system rarely issued a task, asking me to go to a base in the northeast, remembering my previous life. The system had never issued this task, it only issued tasks to guide me when key items appeared. Coincidentally, I met Audrey, Jacob, and the others again that night. I didn't expect Savannah to be so vicious, pushing you into the utility room full of zombies, a man said indignantly. Yeah, didn't you two used to be best friends? Fortunately, the boss arrived in time, or else you would have, say. I don't know how she became like this, but I can't keep indulging her. Audrey saw me first. Savannah, won't you really consider joining Jacob's team? I said expressionlessly. Didn't you hear what I said last time? Besides, I don't know you well. A man kicked me to the ground. How dare you talk to Sister Audrey like that, you bitch? Can't you tell she's concerned about you? Audrey seemed to want to stop him, but I could see that she didn't pull very hard. Savannah, just apologize. I let those men kick and punch me without resisting. Audrey, I don't care about any team. I just find you disgusting. It seems we haven't beaten you into submission yet. You still have the strength to talk. Enough, Jacob said coldly. He walked past me and looked at me like I was a bug. Watch your mouth. Then everyone left. Jacob, I tried my best. Audrey sighed. It's okay, don't mention her. Jacob, I have an idea on how to increase the efficiency of killing zombies. You see, as they walked away, just as I was about to buy a bottle of healing medicine from the mall, a man helped me up. His delicate face showed a bit of restraint, and he threw me a box of trauma medicine. Don't get too close to them in the future. My name is James. After saying that, he hurriedly caught up with them. James, of course I knew him, an old acquaintance from my previous life. I picked up his trauma medicine and didn't hesitate to swallow one pill. As a second-order ability user, I could definitely take them all down. However, this kind of development was more interesting. I stayed in the town for a few days. I collected a lot of supplies and points. During these few days, I ran into Audrey and her group several times. They bullied me in various ways. Taking the supplies from my hands was the mildest thing they did. Once, they even locked me in with the zombies. So I had to chop at the zombies while crying out in pain. It was really tiring. They were waiting, and so was I, until one night, just as I was about to open the basement door, I found that the door had been reinforced with earth element power, but it wouldn't last long. I knew who did it. They just wanted to kill me. I shrugged and decided to sit back on the chair and wait. After about an hour, the ground started shaking violently. I dodged to the door and was about to turn the handle. A rotten arm broke through the door. I immediately judged that this was a zombie close to the second order. An ordinary first-order zombie couldn't break through the door like this. I looked into its dark eye sockets, and it tilted its head at me. Before it could move, I took out my Tang Dao, enchanted it with light elements, and killed it with one strike. I had already solidified my strength at the second order, so I had no pressure dealing with it. The shaking on the ground didn't stop. Without time to think, I ran out of the basement. I saw it, a dense horde of zombies. It was a zombie horde. Audrey and Jacob had given me a great gift. They all looked at me in unison and pounced towards me. I made a prompt decision and used the invisibility talisman. The invisibility talisman could hide my aura and figure. Even zombies with a keen sense of smell couldn't tell where I was. Once, I tested how long the invisibility talisman could hide me by sneaking to their small stronghold. Coincidentally, I heard them planning how to use the zombie horde to kill me. Jacob learned about this zombie horde from his uncle, the base leader. I also experienced this zombie horde in my previous life. However, at that time, I bought a lot of Vajra talismans and stuck them on the door. Audrey and I managed to hold out until the zombie horde passed. Audrey probed Jacob about this zombie horde. Jacob had an expressionless face. "I'll take everyone with me. As for your best friend, I know where she is. Let's give her a gift," the others echoed. "Jacob, why don't we just wait until she's dead before leaving?" Jacob tacitly agreed with this approach. Audrey smiled happily. I had guessed whether they would use this method to kill me, but I didn't expect them to be this vicious. Then I decided to turn their scheme to my advantage. An invisibility talisman lasted about 10 minutes. And an earth tunneling talisman allowed me to go anywhere within 100 miles. Unfortunately, one earth tunneling talisman cost me nearly 500 points. Since they gave me such a great gift, I had to give them something in return. I found a relatively safe place, smeared some blood on my face, and used the earth tunneling talisman to sense. Soon, I locked onto Audrey's position. It only took an instant to teleport there. I took the initiative to cancel the effect of the teleportation talisman and stood at the door of their temporary stronghold, knocking on the door. Luckily, Audrey opened the door. She was shocked but quickly calmed down. I smiled and greeted her. "Long time no see, Audrey." I leaned close to her ear. If I hadn't run fast enough, I would have been torn apart and eaten. Before she could react, I teleported directly to the gate of the wire fence. Outside the wire fence, there were a large number of zombies. She said coldly, "What do you want to do? Haven't you learned the consequences of provoking us? Jacob won't let you off if he finds out." I smiled and interrupted, "Really? Then go ahead and tell him." Ignoring her dissuasion, I opened the gate of the wire fence. Of course, I couldn't just cause trouble for her alone. Then I activated the invisibility talisman. I picked up a drivable car from the roadside, ignored the chaos behind me, and drove towards the northeast. "Audrey, at the northeast base, we will meet again. I've always known one truth. When the enemy is in the open and I'm in the dark, I have the initiative, so along the way." Besides killing zombies, I kept driving non-stop, just to reach the base ahead of time. My strength also increased rapidly. Killing zombies was as easy as cutting watermelons. After driving on the highway for half a month, I finally arrived at the northeast base. Only when I got close to the base did I understand why the system had marked a task here. The closer I got, the clearer the key item prompted by the task became. There was a medicinal herb in the northeast base. This herb was the last weapon I planned to use to destroy the origin of the zombies in my previous life. This kind of medicinal herb was extremely rare. Even with my extensive connections in my previous life, I had only seen one. In the apocalypse, both medicinal herbs and medicines were extremely scarce. After I brought it back, neither the traditional Chinese medicine doctors nor the Western medicine doctors at the base had ever seen it, not knowing its efficacy. We conducted a lot of simulation calculations. Finally, we could confirm that it could 100% destroy the origin of the zombies. Unexpectedly, after I was reborn, this medicinal herb appeared here. The plan to save the world could be advanced. I entered the northeast base unimpeded. I went to the Ability User Association, certified my identity as a first-order speed ability user, and registered a team. The Ability User Association allows one to earn contribution points by completing tasks and receive supplies. Of course, I didn't need those supplies. On the way, I saw a familiar figure, James. He saw me too, but quickly looked away. The people I was most concerned about arrived at the base a little later. It seemed that I had caused them enough trouble. I hid in the crowd and watched them get out of the car. Most of them looked bedraggled. I listened carefully to their conversation. "Uncle, one of the team members has awakened a secondary ability. Please arrange some researchers." Secondary awakening. I finally forced her to use copy. I felt a little more at ease, no matter what ability she has. In the face of top-tier like-based abilities, everything else is child's play. Since I got the information I wanted, I didn't linger on the street for too long. I decided to take on a few tasks at the Ability User Association in a few days later. I stood in the task hall of the Ability User Association. My registered ability was ordinary and I was only at the first order, so no one wanted to team up with me. The receptionist didn't even bother to smile at me. We've taken these tasks of hunting mutant beasts. As the tasks were snatched away, I turned around and saw that it was Audrey and Jacob's team. The receptionist put on a smile again. Dear Thunder Team, these 3 tasks have been assigned to your system. Audrey didn't hold back at all. Sorry, we'll take these 3 tasks. I used a disguise talisman, but they still didn't recognize me. Losers should just take on zombie killing tasks. Someone from the Thunder team was dissatisfied with me. I took an inconspicuous zombie killing task and left. No one paid any attention to me. I walked to an inconspicuous corner, used the invisibility talisman again, and moved next to Audrey. Audrey, your secondary awakening has really opened my eyes. This task is a good opportunity to practice. Psychic abilities are amazing. The pride in Audrey's eyes grew even stronger. Even Jacob showed some appreciation. When you're more familiar with your ability, I'll recommend you to participate in a research project at the Research Institute. Audrey was so happy that she couldn't stop smiling. The group went to a mountain dozens of kilometers outside the base. I didn't expect that their destination was the same as the location of the task. I stuck an invisibility talisman on the car and followed them closely. In the mountain, after referring to the map and searching for a long time, I found a suspicious cave. My third-order light-based ability told me that the concentration of dark elements here was very high. Not long after entering the cave, I saw people in front of me. Audrey and Jacob are everywhere. I felt disgusted. Many ability user teams have reported abnormalities here. Jacob rarely looked serious. Everyone, move forward carefully. I'll keep my psychic ability activated at all times. Audrey was only at the first order, while I was at the third order. It was easy for me to hide my figure from her detection. The cave was very deep. After walking for a long time, something strange finally happened. What's this? A cocoon and a group of zombies, someone exclaimed. I remembered, this was the Zombie King in the growth stage. As the highest level zombie, the Zombie King could control the actions of other nearby zombies. Its upgrading process was simple and brutal. It just controlled the zombies to absorb energy one by one. It upgraded very quickly. I estimated that the one in front of me was almost at the 4th order. There are a lot of zombies here. I suggest using fire-based abilities, Jacob suggested. I'll hold them back with my psychic power. I watched coldly from the side. A group of first and second order ability users having a chance to defeat these zombies would be the most fantastical thing of the year. Sure enough, all the zombies pounced on them in an instant. They quickly realized that these zombies were more ferocious than the ones they usually encountered. They could handle a dozen. But they couldn't hold on against dozens. Earth-based defense, wood-based healing. Jacob was already injured. Jacob, I can't hold on much longer. Audrey's face turned pale and there was blood at her nose and mouth due to overusing her ability. Perfect. It was my turn to make an appearance. I used a transformation talisman and a voice-changing talisman. The blue flames infused with light-based power annihilated a large number of zombies. Jacob said respectfully, "Thank you, Senior." "May I ask your name?" I said sarcastically. "I don't deserve such respect. You must be very confident in yourselves to challenge beyond your level." Jacob's face looked a bit terrible looking. At this moment, the large cocoon in the middle slowly dissolved. It was the Zombie King. Compared to ordinary zombies, the Zombie King looked more like a normal person. "You, who have disturbed me, will all die." I immediately started fighting with the Zombie King, throwing out my abilities and fire-based talismans as if they were free. Fortunately, I found the Zombie King earlier in this life, and it wasn't as difficult to deal with as in my previous life. Just as the Zombie King was on the verge of death, a sharp pain suddenly shot through my head. I froze. A bolt of lightning mixed with fire struck towards me. Earth-based power bound my body. Audrey looked a little complacent. Oops. I seem to have attacked the wrong person. "We'll have to take the Zombie King's head, anyway. You're very powerful, Senior. The Zombie King means nothing to you. Why don't you give it to us juniors?" I sneered and watched their actions. Just as they were attacking the Zombie King suddenly let out a roar, burned its power, and its momentum soared. They were all pushed back and their injuries worsened. I sneered, "Idiots, did you think the Zombie King was that easy to defeat?" I easily broke free from the restraints and looked at their appearance. Audrey was covered in blood and angry. "Senior, aren't you going to hit him again?" "Yeah, why are you just standing there and watching?" I glanced at them. "Aren't you all very powerful? How dare you team up with someone who attacks the wrong person?" Audrey's face turned red and white, looking extremely embarrassed. I released my ability and deliberately burned Audrey. She let out a scream. "Aw, what are you doing? Sorry." I seem to have attacked the wrong person. I'll take the zombie king's head. I threw her words back at her and then chopped off the zombie king's head. Ignoring the angry shouts and curses behind me, I left with my head held high. Killing the zombie king meant that the only targets of my revenge were Audrey and Jacob. When I got back to the base, I handed in the required number of crystal nuclei for the task and then returned to my room. The Thunder team should be resting these days. I also bought a few invisibility talismans and went to the research institute. As expected, Audrey was there. I watched as she was thriving there. With her rare psychic ability, she successfully became the assistant to the project leader. She looked at the medicinal herb and said, "Old Lou, is this the medicinal herb our base is researching?" Old Lou nodded. "Yes, we've initially calculated that it can suppress the virus. Since there's only one such herb, and we can't determine when its medicinal properties will reach their peak, we need a psychic ability user to monitor it." Audrey seemed to be deep in thought. "Old Lou, I have an idea." I was sure that what they were going to say next would interest me greatly, since it was a waste of time to keep going to the research institute every day. I bought the latest monitor from the system and installed it in Audrey's office. With doing tasks and killing high-level zombies every day, I had already achieved freedom in terms of points. After confirming the location of the medicinal herb, I left. Half a month later, I sneaked into the research institute again on a dark and windy night. The research institute was brightly lit, and the researchers were all intently studying the medicinal herb. The originally whole herb had been refined into bottles of potions. The alarm went off the moment I stepped into the experimental area. I decided not to pretend anymore and revealed my true face. Audrey was surprised to see me. "Savannah, I thought you were already dead outside." I sneered. "How could I die when you're still alive?" Hearing the alarm, a large number of researchers and guards were already rushing over. "How did this person get in? Where are the guards? This person is so stupid, walking around in the research institute so blatantly." Target locked, activating level 2 defense. Beep, beep, beep. I looked coldly at everyone. The ability user guards and machines had already started attacking me. I teleported and directly took away several test tubes. Old Lou said anxiously, "Audrey, stop her quickly." She launched an attack. "Savannah, experience the power of psychic abilities. It's your honor to die by my hand." I easily dodged all her attacks. She was shocked. How is this possible? No matter how strong their attacks were, I could easily dodge them. I also put all the reagents on the experimental benches into my system. "Savannah." Audrey was enraged and her psychic attacks became more and more intense. I dodged them all with ease and flashed in front of her. "I'll make you pay the price." Ignoring her angry shouts, I did something I had always wanted to do to her. Slap. I slapped her hard. As a greeting, "Here's a slap for you." She was bleeding from the slap, and half of her face swelled up. I teleported out of the research institute and headed straight for the base gate. "Hurry, catch her." I was so fast that no one could keep up with me. Standing at the base entrance, I deliberately waited for them. "Savannah, you're quite confident." Audrey and the others rushed over immediately. Several famous teams from the Ability User Association were also dispatched to catch me. "Run. Why don't you run now? Weren't you very arrogant just now, with so many people here? Let's see how you get out. You even dared to steal from the research institute." Audrey stared at me. "Savannah, why do you keep causing trouble for me? What exactly do you want? Fame, money, power?" I interrupted her. "I just want your life." She laughed angrily. "I don't know whether to call you a daydreamer or say that's your last words." Jacob looked at me. "Don't waste time with her. Kill her quickly. She's just a pesky bug." I was calm. "I'm not here to fight with you, Audrey. Do you mind if I show everyone something?" Audrey sneered. "Considering you're about to die, I'll allow you to say a few last words." I casually took out a phone and turned on the speaker. "Old Lou, the medicinal properties of this herb are very good. However, I have an idea. You can listen to it. If we use it all to save the world, that would be too wasteful. Why don't we weaken its properties and sell it on the black market? We can sell it at a high price, anyway. The higher-ups don't know what we're doing. Those ability users have plenty of money. We can make an unlimited amount of the weakened version. As for the money we earn, you can have 80% and I'll take 20%. Audrey, I need to think about your idea. What we've talked about today should stay between us." Audrey's face turned pale, and Jacob looked very angry. The surrounding passers-by whispered among themselves, "Even in the apocalypse, I didn't expect the Research Institute to be so greedy for money." "Right, we ordinary people are just barely surviving. This is just a joke for us." Could that woman be the one in the video? I didn't expect her to be so troublesome. The other ability users couldn't stand it anymore. "Jacob, I respect you, but you have to give us an explanation for this. We protect the base and kill the zombies, and they still want to exploit us." "Jacob, did you bring this woman here?" Jacob's face grew darker and darker. His uncle was the base leader, so his attitude naturally represented half of the base leader's stance. His eyes were terrifying. Audrey, you have to give everyone an explanation. Audrey remained calm. Jacob, you know she's been against me. This video must be fake. Jacob looked at me. I said casually, is it now popular to deny the authenticity of videos to cover up your actions? Since I'm showing it, I'm not afraid of having it verified. I smiled. Moreover, haven't you destroyed the relevant documents in your office yet? Audrey turned as pale as a sheet of paper and said nothing. Jacob understood her reaction immediately. He gave her a dark look and immediately led his men back to the research institute. Audrey looked at me with hatred. What on earth do you want? I want you dead, in an abandoned building, although I really wanted to watch them fight among themselves. However, I had more important things to do. The medicinal herb had been decomposed by Audrey into more than a dozen bottles of potions and a block of solid liquid medicine. Fortunately, there was still a block of solid liquid medicine left. I opened the task panel and saw a task. The task location was in a city 2,000 kilometers away. That should be the city where the virus first spread. When setting off, I randomly swept with light elements. Besides the zombies, I also detected a small thing, a small locator. It was stuck to the back of my waist. I stuck it there when I slapped Audrey, taking advantage of the moment when she wasn't paying attention. I have to say that Audrey managed to stick it on me even in that situation. I casually stuck it back on the back of my waist. If they want to chase me, let them. Perhaps they were afraid of me, and I had a smooth journey all the way. I had a rather leisurely and carefree time during these days. Every day, I either killed zombies or practiced. I practiced at a very fast speed and soon broke through to the fourth order. Looking around, the zombie king was dead, and there were no more zombies that could threaten me. As I got closer to my destination, the number of zombies gradually increased. My speed didn't slow down at all, and the dense light elements were invincible. I found a residential area with good concealment in the city. Every day, I chopped zombies and stockpiled disposable weapons, talismans, and healing potions. Now, I was like a small arsenal. A few days later, a long line of people entered the city. I looked at the building where the dark elements were the most concentrated. Was the final battle finally here? Zombies are more active at night, so I chose to go to the building during the day. As soon as I entered the door, the entire hall was filled with zombies. I had no doubt that the whole building was packed with zombies. This wasn't the time to save talismans. So I threw out fire-based area talismans frantically. While blasting the zombies, I used my light-based ability to search for the source of the virus. Soon, I found the source of the virus on the top floor. The entire rooftop had turned into a zombie garden. I looked around and saw a huge corpse in the middle, as big as several people. The face of the corpse was unrecognizable, but it could vaguely be seen that it had once been a male. Perhaps the virus had parasitized this man by accident. And all the tragedies began from then on. There was a big hole in the man's stomach, and zombies were constantly coming out of it. The extreme darkness and evil made my expression serious. Thanks to the locator I put on you, it wasn't easy to find you. Audrey was completely different from before. She used to be so glorious, but now she was so gloomy. I didn't expect you to come. The Northeast base actually let you out. I looked at the numerous ability user teams behind her. Jacob stepped forward. Last time you made such a big joke for the base. Now, put down the potions and get out. He looked at Audrey. As for you, I'll give you a chance to atone for your sins. Audrey smiled ugly. I sneered. Jacob, according to your character, I'm afraid I won't be able to get out of here alive. Why don't we have a big fight? Jacob scoffed. What did I just hear? Do you think you can fight against dozens of us all by yourself? I released my light-based supernatural power. Then let's give it a try. Audrey was shocked when she saw the light-based ability. You're a light-based ability user. Jacob looked at her angrily. What's going on with your information? Isn't her ability speed? Audrey gritted her teeth. Savannah, you lied to me. I admired their ugly expressions and couldn't help but sigh. In the apocalypse, the enemy of humanity is still humanity, killing each other. I took the initiative to launch an attack. The light elements were gorgeous, but their lethality couldn't be ignored. Of course, this amount of attack wasn't enough when facing so many people. I didn't hide my talismans either and bombarded them all with them. They were beaten by me and couldn't resist, and I, relying on my sufficient weapons, couldn't do anything to them for a while either. Savannah, today is your death day. Taking advantage of my inattention, Audrey flashed behind me and tried to give me a fatal blow. I curled my lips into a smile. It's not certain who will die yet. Suddenly, plants and hard soil emerged from the ground and bound everyone present. What's going on? Wood-based and earth-based abilities. What exactly is your supernatural power? I smiled easily. Of course, I'm just a light-based ability user. A man from Jacob's team came out. When he saw clearly who it was, He struggled frantically but to no avail. I praised, "James, well done." He felt embarrassed. "Savannah has helped me a lot usually. What I did is nothing." I smiled and shook my head, ignoring the others. I walked towards the huge corpse. I took out the solid liquid medicine and injected light elements into it. The gentle and powerful light elements merged with the liquid medicine, and I could feel that the medicinal properties were stimulated to an unprecedented height. I threw this ball of light into the source, and in an instant, the huge corpse turned into pieces of golden fragments. The source of the zombies was destroyed, and there would no longer be a continuous stream of zombies in this world. I looked at Jacob. "Everything is about to come to an end. Do you have anything else you want to ask?" Jacob no longer had his previous arrogance. He looked at me. "How long have you been planning all this?" I tilted my head in thought. "From the moment I saw James." I walked up to Audrey. She looked lifeless. When she saw me approaching, she suddenly attacked me with her ability. "Savannah, I curse you to die a miserable death in your next life." I looked at her ferocious face and smiled. "Actually, your supernatural power is copy." She was stunned. "How do you know that?" I was proud. "Not only do I know your supernatural power, but I also know that you wanted to copy my supernatural power and the system from the very beginning, so I lied to you. My supernatural power is indeed light, and I also have the system. You have the ability of copy. How could you miss such a powerful cheat? So I made a series of plans targeting you." Her eyes were empty, and she said viciously to me, "If there is a next life, I will die trying to." I was too lazy to listen to her nonsense, so I killed her with a single slash. I walked up to James and looked at the setting sun. I sighed. Everything is over, and the blue planet is about to greet a new starting point. James also felt emotional. "Savannah, it has been a hard journey, but it was worth it." I looked at him and seemed to see the strong and gentle him from my previous life again. "Yes," I patted him. "Let's go. There are still a lot of things to deal with in the base." The future, without a doubt, is something to look forward to. James was my close friend in my previous life. A delicate-looking boy, but he had great ambitions, unlike Audrey. He was kind and upright. Once he followed me, he didn't think about anything else. When everyone slandered and loathed me, only he tried his best to oppose the majority and collect evidence of my being wronged. After my death, he didn't end up much better. He was starved to death in prison. When I saw him again in this new life, he knew that Jacob wasn't worth following, so I took the initiative to find him. At first, we had just a trading relationship. His supernatural power was wood-based, and I would provide him with crystal nuclei for upgrading, and my request was that he should try to improve his status in the northeast base as much as possible. I saw them grabbing snacks. "I want to eat steak. Hurry up. If you don't go, there won't be any left." Soon, he came to me again. After listening to his complaints, I told him my plan, and he gladly joined me. Those ability users were just doing things for money, so I let them go. The blueprint for the new world still needs their help, so naturally, I can't eliminate them all. As for Jacob, after James overthrows his uncle, I will nullify their supernatural powers together. They have done a lot of bad things by relying on their status and deserve what they get. The northeast base itself is very powerful, so it isn't particularly difficult for James to become the base leader. Everything has been settled, and I can finally relax completely. As for the construction of the new world, I'll leave it to James. As for me, I'll retire happily and enjoy my new life.